What's up, guys? Another Sunday, another weekly Shonen Jump. We are back with episode 39 of Shonen Ronin. And we have all our gang back. We have Kenny here, we have Aniki here, and we have Vash back. And he keeps trying to change his name, but no, I'm going to keep changing it back. But still, but he will not be able to join in for this first manga discussion because we're going to be talking about One Punch Man, Ayashimon, Kaiju number 8, Undead Unluck, Black Clover possibly, Undead Unluck, and Jujutsu Kaisen. So let's go ahead and see our.
You mean Disney Clover?
Get back on me, Vash.
Yeah, get your. Let me change your name real quick. There you go. The crowd knows now you know your name. But yeah, guys, we are back. Brand new chapters, new week. I think it was overall, it's all pretty decent. It's not too bad. My Hero Academia was on break. One Piece is on break. So what can we work with this entire chapter? Even though that JJK has the cover for this entire number 20.
I mean, good choice on the JJK cover. I'm definitely feeling the hole that is no My Hero or One Piece this week. But, I mean, JJK did good this week, and the other series in Jump did do well. I'm just still feeling that.
I feel like
that absence.
I kind of feel like, so I didn't really finish the story of Goodbye Eri.
Oh, that was amazing.
It came out last week, but if it came out this week, it might have helped out the issue.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that would have helped some. That if that would have been saved for this week, that would have been perfect. Because I mean, I guess it's okay because I also read Look Back yesterday, which I hadn't read when it got re-released. So still a good week for manga. Just there's always that little bit of sadness when like two of your faves aren't there.
Mm-hmm.
And usually we only have to worry about like there was this weird, beautiful, sweet time where Jump seemed to have this rotation going where it would be like One Piece would go on break,
This
and then
week.
MHA would go on break, then
Yep.
JJK would go on break, then I think like K and Y would go on break.
Black Clover.
And then-
Which I'm very happy about that they don't let a lot of the mangakas take a break all at the same time, because that means they know we will lose money that week. Nobody buying the issue. So I'm glad that they let each of them have a rotation, Oda take his break, Tabata, and so on. So I'm glad that each of them take their own type of mental breaks that they need to. But I'm glad that Shoeisha at least give them turns and not have it all done at once.
Yeah, like consistent break is good because you have to have someone to be able to replace the other person for that entire week and that sort of stuff. But I guess maybe this time they're trying out the two mangaka rotation per week. But I feel like they should have like either like have One Piece and another newer series, or like pretty still popular but already past the hundreds, like Mashle or Undead Unluck. They take that break that week. And the next following week, My Hero takes a break, and Undead Unluck or Black Clover takes a break, that sort of thing, and then the next following week another two. So that way you have a big banger, and then you have a mid banger, and then next week you're fine.
Plus, I haven't seen Undead Unluck take a break other than the actual Jump itself take a break, and that's something crazy because I always give praise to Undead Unluck how it does those double issues all the time, and that is some high praise because for you to do a lot of double pages in your chapter and more than one or two, and usually like 4 or 5, that's props because that takes a lot of time and effort. And for people that in the chat, Golden Week is in 2 weeks, so most likely there's no episode. If we do, we'll probably put like a highlight on some series, but Golden Week, that means all chapters will take a break, aka all the mangakas will take a break that week.
But anyway, guys, we could talk about this for a little bit longer. But I'd rather we go straight into our mangas. We have a long list of going in. Let's gonna start to the One Punch Man chapter 160. Vash, go back on mute.
Bye.
Wow. Told Vash that his opinions would not be heard this day.
If he was caught up to One Punch Man, he would have. But you know, that's all in his backlog, such as Hunter. Oh, Twin Star Exorcist.
Oh man,
Sorry.
y'all gotta stop jumping Vash for this backlog. Main reason I gotta say that and stick up for Vash is I have like 10 trade paperback volumes from one of my buddies at work. So
I mean, 10 is fine. No, that's fine. Vash has 10 times that amount right there.
I've had some of these for like 2 years. What's even worse is that I keep getting all my manga volumes, and then like, so he's read every like MHA manga volume I have, all the JJK manga volumes, I think, all the Chainsaw Man volumes, and I'm still holding, you know, these trade paperbacks from 2 years ago. So,
It's okay. We've been trying to have Vash watch Hunter x Hunter for over 3 years now, so.
Oh, sorry, Vash. I tried to save you. I tried to take a bigger.
The most he's ever done, 6 episodes.
Look.
So that One Punch Man coverage, how's that going?
Times.
All right.
Times.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Here's what I want to say about this One Punch Man chapter that makes me happy is that I think we talked about this last week, but I can't remember if we talked about it on air. I've read the up past this part in the One Punch Man webcomic.
One Punch Man 1?
Yes. Like the original where it's just a bunch of doodles, basically.
I remember.
It's really nice to see this kind of deliver on like what that doodle, like what you would think that it would have to look like if you had seen like the anime and then read the doodle. So it's like, all right, thank you, Murata. This really allows One Punch Man to shine and be the thing that, like, Murata really brings out the potential of One Punch Man is what I'm saying. Because I was excited for this when it was just a bunch of little scribbles and doodles, and now I get it like this. So I just kind of want to take that time to appreciate Murata for the quality artwork. I
mean, yeah, because Murata, he's a fantastic artist. Because from chapter 159, we saw the planet, and the shape as an eyeball, the clouds, the space, like the entire. We know he has the talent, but I like the idea where have your storyboard out first, and then connect it with and then do the art later, and then push it out onto like Shueisha, Viz, Shonen Jump out, and then have it all out there looking beautiful, reading it, and then if it's ever so popular. But then it's weird, inconsistent. You can release anytime it wants to, kind of thing too.
Yeah, like sometimes we get like 2 chapters, 3 chapters in a month. Sometimes
within the week, actually.
We don't get anything for like 4 months, and then all of a sudden we get a 100-page chapter. Yeah, that happened before.
It did. No, it did. I mean, if people were really like full all in, they would read the One Punch Man 1 series. Like, are you in it for the story or are you in it for the art? If we're in it for the art, you can wait. If you're one for the story, you can read One Punch Man 1.
I came here for the story.
Well, what I'll say is that a lot of stuff in the One Punch Man manga is an expansion. So when I read the webcomic, I don't recall, for example, the Flashy Flash versus the other 2 ninja.
Oh.
Like that fight, I don't remember that being in the original webcomic. I could be wrong, but I don't think that was in the original webcomic.
Flashy Flash versus Garu versus Platinum Sperm.
I don't think that was in the webcomic.
Interesting. Oh, that fight. I thought you meant like the 2 assistant or like the 2 other speedster fight. That's he.
Yeah. No, that fight too wasn't in there.
Oh, that one.
Like a lot. Yeah, like a lot of the. So I don't think either of those 2 Flashy Flash fights were in there.
Oh, so Flashy Flash had more shine in the manga.
Yep. in general, I think that they sped up this arc, or they like this arc is way longer in the manga than it is for webcomic. Which is a good thing. It actually adds a lot of stuff to some of the characters. So I'm for it. Like I don't even know if you get like the scene with Pink Top Tiger and them talking, and then he like throws it and stuff. I don't think that's
co-signing that. Alvis is saying there's more monsters, and that he didn't go to platinum even in the webcomic. He only went up to the gold form. So
yeah, he was only golden in the comics. Okay, I'm glad I'm not tripping. I thought that I was like, he seems to be sticking around longer than I remember, but cool. So yeah, as long as they keep the table flip.
Mm-hmm. So does Garo, like?
Garo does have these transformations, but I don't think you get the interactions with the kid like this during the fights or scuffling between him and Saitama.
Okay.
But he does monsterify more and more as he's fighting him. In fact, I think that it ends up being Saitama versus. It actually originally ends up being like Saitama versus Garo at Z City specifically, because they're gonna change it anyway. More than likely, they're gonna add stuff to it. Do you guys care if I explain the fight scene?
I don't know. So super spoiler disclaimer right here.
Yeah, it's like it's barely a spoiler because it's more like just a type of a move and stuff that like gets done that they're probably gonna have to circle back to because it's too iconic to leave out.
Mm-hmm. The one where he broke the giant centipede in half.
No, the table flip that I keep mentioning is when Saitama actually grabs the ground and just flips it like you would flip over a table.
Okay.
And he does this in his fight against Garo, and it's like so strong that the centrifugal force actually makes it so that he's standing on the ground as it's flipped upside down because of how hard Saitama flipped it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like stuff like that I'm kind of waiting to see if they're gonna keep that in there because webcomic Garo only gets hit with 2 serious moves. So I'm curious to see if they're gonna have him take more serious attacks or what all they're going to be changing in this fight because he's been getting smacked pretty hard.
Yeah, I'm interested in seeing how much more power up the monstification gives him because he, at least right now, Saitama isn't trying, and it's not like, oh, I'm bored not trying. It's just like it's a little kid and I'm about to spank him and tell him a lesson. Like that's the energy that this chapter kind of gave. He was like, hey, you want me to beat him up? I'll beat him up. Just say you. Hey, giving the Dora treatment. Hey guys, do you see?
Hi kids. Do you like violence?
Punch him? Yeah. I'll punch him.
But Saitama does make a point though. Like it's not like Gaara acts like the monster and like the whole hero killer and all that stuff like that, but he's not really a bad person.
Yeah, when you strip the strength and the power aside from all of it, it's the true character of who he is what Saitama is able to see.
I mean, even the kid sees it. It's like, yeah, you're not a villain. You're not. You're not even like a Well, you are a monster, but you're not a bad person. You keep saving me. You're just
he's an anti-hero.
Yeah, the anti-hero.
Like literally, that's like his whole point. He's anti-hero, but he's
anti everything. He's like, look, I'm whooping the monsters. I'm whooping the heroes. I am going to be in this rulership over the world, and I will enforce peace upon everyone.
But if we're gonna see more of Garo, and also like if we're not gonna be staying on Earth no more, because what Blast just introduced, where there's like a whole multiverse or multi-dimensions, he explained. That would make like the One Punch Man even more interesting. It just makes like Chapter 159, the eye that we see is really God's eye, and then you actually get to teleport the other ports of the multiverse to the other places, dimensions, and other vastly. Which
Yeah, because I mean, from before, we kind of already established that like we know that there's a greater expansive universe to this like place, and we already know that Saitama is stronger than one of the universe conquerors out there. So there was already this kind of playing field that we knew existed from the jump. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, like the whole shtick of One Punch Man is that Saitama's the overpowered MC, and we're gonna play with that trope to the max and dial it to 11. So, and now we get to, so really we're reading this fight, and you already know like this will be about Garo's state for the rest of the fight now that Saitama's committed to fighting him. You know.
I mean, I could definitely see Garo as his rival throughout the entire story, because if we do go into another like stage, different planet, different arena, different dimensions, Blast would have to take Saitama, and then Garo just follows right behind. More of a whole rival, just the strongest hero versus the strongest like monster villain kind of thing. And the only way Garo could keep up with Saitama is if he has to constantly keep fighting Saitama in order to break his limit even more to get stronger. Because I'm pretty sure that's how his monstification really works. Like in his limiter to work is Saitama has to like basically keep beating him up to the point where he's near death, and then gets stronger the next like once he's finished recovered, just like Goku and Super Saiyans is basically.
So there's a really cool, interesting aspect here. I can't speak to it too heavily, but the concept of martial arts and martial artists and the serene state being what keeps you at your pinnacle, you know, being able to filter out all the other things, being able to be, you know, focused and control of yourself and your emotions. Like this is what is like air quotes the pinnacle. And you see that when emotions get riled up, when the mentality starts to crumble, that's when more of the monstification shows itself present. So I think that there's this has always been a dynamic that's been present with Gara, where it's like there's the undertone of martial arts and what martial arts is, and that lifestyle stays present with Garo's character constantly. And I really appreciate that you know, to this point it still continues to be a very strong theme of like, this is the way, the plight of a martial artist. This is what happens when a martial artist goes down a certain type of path that they should have essentially.
Can you repeat the last part, Kenny? You kind of broke up a little bit.
Yeah. My mic a little closer. I was saying that I really appreciate that we keep the martial arts aspect present for Garo throughout everything, and it's kind of like you see the like, hey, what happens if a martial artist chooses to go down A path versus B path, and how these different things impact. Because you always see that, like you think about like even like Street Fighters, like, you know, you go down the part of darkness, you see what happens for this, how much power you get from this, but how much you lose control of yourself. And think about like Rio, you see, like I think about a lot of people who like go to a dark form, and it's like because they lose control of their emotions. You think about, again, like you said, Super Saiyan for the first time, it's because Krillin gets, you know, killed. You know, it's like it's this wild release of emotions that leads to a transformation. But in this case, the transformation is this monstification.
And one of the things that I like about this is that martial arts is about having that discipline within your body, you know, like having that control, and that kind of plays out with him keeping that sense of self, and really primarily being that human that Garo is. Because at the end of the day, like one of his things is that he is such a human character. Even no matter how monster-rific he's getting, he still is thinking like the Garo we've seen from the beginning. So we are constantly in touch with his humanity. So, and him being the martial artist that he is what allows him to have that, not losing himself to his own physicality. You know what I mean? It's like the whole idea of keeping control of your body, mastering your fighting style. Like that was what he was focused on as he monsterfied, instead of, you know, oh, I'm physically stronger. Like the stats and stuff weren't what was important. It was the way he wielded those physical enhancements.
The pinnacle for him was mastering what he felt was his own form, and the monsterification only helped to get him closer to what that would have been.
Exactly.
We have to also remember Garo didn't ask to be monsterified.
That happened while he was unconscious.
He was completely opposed to that. They just was like, well, you don't got a choice, and you ain't conscious to consent. So,
like, he had just taken a bunch of damage, and they were like, "Here, take this," and he was like, "Yeah, nah, but I will beat all your asses.
Yep,
I'm fine with doing that with my time."
But I think we're good talking about One Punch Man. Really.
Straightforward, solid chapter.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's move on. Ayashimon chapter 20.
Get Vash back in here, unless he doesn't read Ayashimon too.
We're probably not caught up yet.
I guess we'll take his silence as a no.
Man showed up just to be shoved out. It's crazy.
We could have started out much earlier, guys. So sorry, folks.
Stampeding himself right now. So I really felt like, contrary to last chapter where I got a lot of things at the same time, and I felt like everything served a really good purpose from page to page, I really feel like this chapter was way too wordy. I feel like there was a lot of words on every single page had a lot of words on it. It made a 19 or 20 page chapter feel like it was 30 or 40 pages. Ultimately to say nothing. Ultimately to tell me something you've already told me in like a little 2 pages from a previous chapter, that someone came in and took over Beastars. We already saw that on the side. We already knew that happened.
In like the last page or two in the chapter.
Yeah, and then to spend like 10 pages trying to like walk us through a plan, to explain, I get that it was necessary, but like it just, I don't know. Last week was such a strong chapter that it just kind of felt a little cheap for me anyways. For me personally, again, I'm not saying it's a bad chapter. It's just my criticism of the chapter of, again, coming off of what I felt like it was a really strong, really diverse, really well-rounded chapter to this very wordy, explanatory kind of like I said, there was a lot of word vomit there, and some of it was contextually good, and some of it was just conversation. It was just pushing narrative. I will say it did end strong though. I did like the last like 3 pages. I did like that point. I did like that we got to the point of like, hey, you guys are being followed. Hey, we need to see the big boss, which again, I feel like all of that still could have happened without the 16 to 17 pages before doing what they did.
So part of me, like, I kind of get what you're saying, because it was like a really long breakdown and negotiation and stuff, and we knew they were probably going to fail because there's no reason for them to succeed here. As far as the Endless Syndicate, from what we understood, was this really powerful thing, and obviously the dude Dopo, everything we've seen about him lets us know that he will gladly do hostile takeovers.
Right.
So it doesn't matter. Like, this isn't really like a shock.
Yeah, the pretense it was already too strong a pretense for me, I guess.
But what I do like about this is that it showed that if they do have to negotiate and play into cover, that like the characters we see here, who we know are like kind of handpicked, that we can have these people become like the politicking team or something like that going forward, depending on how long this series gets to run. Obviously, that's going to be one of the things that makes this chapter kind of funny, is like, if this becomes like a 100 chapter series, more than likely we'll get to look back on this chapter and be like, oh yeah, this was setting up some characterization for so-and-so and so-and-so and blah, 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 blah. But, if we end up packing it in like at chapter 30, this is probably just going to be a dud. So I think that's going to...
Yeah. So, and I think that's my other side point, is like we were talking about like, hey, it's in a good place where like if it did have to finish early, then we know why it would be finishing early. And then it's like, I don't know, maybe they got some affirmation or something, so they decided to take it in this direction, but still keep it in the pocket.
Volume 1 got reprints, so that means that the first volume's wave of volumes at least was sold out well. So more than likely, they're like, okay, cool, I can actually slow down a little and do a bit more establishing and building in my story.
But I feel like they could have done this over the course of 2 chapters and not necessarily there was still things that were explained that maybe could have been explained in another chapter. Still give me this progression, still give me this interaction even, but maybe some of these breakdowns that just a couple of them. Like, I mean, I'm not asking for a shorter, I'm not saying that it was bad. I'm just saying like some of the contextual things maybe could have been slided in a different way or a different scene.
I think specifically what we could have done is taken like the first half of last week's chapter, kept that where it was, and then split this chapter between last week's chapter and this week's chapter, and then have the second half of last week's chapter be the end of this one, because then what it also would have done was made, even if Mario's training isn't supposed to take that long, it would have felt a bit more like you would have felt like at least a day or two of the time by having this meeting happen.
Yeah.
Yes.
While he was, and then we came back to that. So that's probably what, because then I think that's how a lot of series would have done it.
Yeah.
Or, well, it's like 50-50 because a lot of series will just immediately push through the training. But I think that for this type of situation, because the politicking is going to matter, and there's kind of no way to get around that because this is supposed to have all these gangs and being a ruler and setting up territories. All of this stuff like makes the negotiation aspects of this manga too intrinsic to its themes and what's being handled within the story to ignore. So you have to keep that interspersed, and you can't just make it seem like the action is all that's going to matter when it's clear that that's not going to be the case if this gets to run its full duration. So from that perspective, you kind of want to make sure that you're sandwiching it and placing it in a way that the pacing of the story doesn't throw people off like how you feel. So I definitely get why it can be a little jarring, but
I mean, it wasn't bad. It's just criticism. Like at the end of the day, what I'm saying is it's just my first impression out the gates of finishing the chapter on like a first read was like, wow, this was way more words than I was expecting in this very moment. But again, like I think like you said, I think that would have been perfect, Aniki. Like if there was like some of what was at the beginning of this was nested into like the middle towards the end of last chapter, and then we picked back up with that in this chapter, even if it was still a little wordy, at least I would have had like an introduction from last week, knowing that I was about to walk back into these negotiations or something of that matter. Even just a page of like, all right, we're going undercover. That would have set up the pretense to me being in this scene. It just was a really hard transition into a very like blocky type of stigmatic kind of presentation. Again, nothing bad about it. Look, Attack on Titans, One Piece, I read those. Y'all know I'm good for reading blocks. I read Hunter x Hunter. I'm so good for pages and pages of heavy dialogue. I'm not saying it's bad by any imagine. I just but it is a criticism. It is a criticism, especially in this day and age, especially for a Shonen Jump series. It's actually a little surprising.
Yeah, I should absolutely agree. Was the depth of the second in command really necessary as well? Especially where it's like he had this fight. We know like he's a man of honor. He would always save his underling no matter how stupid things he does. Kill them off, killed out the younger henchmen, and then you realize that the world is all you have left are the motorbiking group, while everybody else seems to be demolished except for a so and so. Oh, there's a hotel that's like not just yet overrun by them kind of thing. It's more like if they're gonna be this wordy, explain the development more of it and not just have this entire one evil group taking over everybody already and you have no idea who is even left yet. Because like you see the catfish saying there is no more four, there's only one, and it's just the syndicate, the Enma syndicate, and then it just kind of makes it seem like you should have said like there's maybe like two more families or like one more family kind of thing, because it's just establishing like our boss also has communication with the mayor, so we have even more power within the human side as much as the yokai side. It could have really been spread out.
Maybe even Sam seeing like the interaction of like them trying to speak to I forgot his name, trying to speak to them to like meet them up at a hotel. Maybe even seeing that a little earlier, So then when I do hear there's only one, I already got, well, they took out one where you're trying to assimilate another one and you're trying to recruit this one. So like it kind of would have made a lot more sense in that essence. I don't know. Maybe what the actual criticism here is not really that it's wordy, is that maybe the sequence to which certain information is presented could have been restructured.
Yeah, I the pacing was really off from this entire chapter in general. But I mean, we guess have to see. We have to.
Yeah, and that's that's all it's going to come down to, is figuring out where the direction is. And like Alva said, also feels like the manga could be preparing for the worst.
Mm-hmm.
So to a certain degree, it kind of gives us, we have the ability to at least now with this chapter, let's say we do end in 20, like at chapter 27 or something like that. Or so like 3 volumes, 9 chapters each volume, level of. Then we at least can say that, okay, cool, they'll have some type of negotiation. That negotiation won't completely go the way they want it to. Maruo will be able to fight Dopo at least. And from that perspective, since he was able to get close to him last time, he'll be able to hit him this time. We have reason to believe that he at least can justifiably fight this dude. He beats him. We have that negotiation, while failed, still being around a lot of other people with presence. So like some kind of Enema Syndicate conference. And then the negotiations will kind of roll into that, and then she can still reasonably seize. So I guess there is a good reason or a good way to see this as, if this is going to end as a 3-volume series, setting up that final negotiation and conference to make sure that they get the people with their worst they need to, while still having Maruo defeat the bad guy like he needs to.
Yeah, it definitely feels like on the positive side of it, it definitely feels like I know the next 3 chapters are probably about to be gas. Like I said all of that about it being worthy, but what really this all means is things are about to rapidly progress into something, because we've already cleared a lot of the stuff that we were kind of questioning last week. We've already established now just in this chapter that, like, all right, you don't got to worry about V-stars. They don't even exist anymore. You ain't got to worry about this. This is not the case. You ain't got. So we're going to get straight to it. You said you already know Dopo looking for these two. Moro's strong enough to fight Dopo, allegedly. At least he has the skills and the techniques to fight Dopo, allegedly. So it's just like, again, we know that probably the next 3 to 5 chapters are about to be straight. It's about to be pressure. It's about to be real pressure.
And I would like to add also that for this chapter,
welcome caller.
Hi, how you doing? I'm gonna show face too. So it felt like in this chapter, I felt like I was reading in One Piece, or like if remember back in Samurai 8 where they did the exposition, but it felt it was too early for the series. But then you finally showed those exposition you show much later down the road, like finally, showing the future Hachimaru, I think was his name. So showing all that. This is what it feels like for
not spend 10 chapters until like we got future stuff of him.
Correct.
That's not gonna be good for Ayashimon. That's not gonna be good.
That's what I'm saying. Ayashimon, because there's a rumor that how some series might get axed. I hope this exposition don't show the rumors that this is one of the series that will get axed, and the new batch of series that's gonna come out, I think after Golden Week. So hopefully this series is not one of them, because I really am enjoying it. And I can't wait to see more of it. And hopefully this exposition didn't hurt people that it felt too wordy, because it felt like it'd be like One Piece chapters when they're wordy, or the lore, being happening. Or like Samurai 8, did the lore very early on, but then they finally show what we finally got much later. But then it's too late because they got axed. So hopefully this is not in the same boat for Ayashimon in this chapter, because I can't wait to see what happens. Like Kendall said, I know the next 2-3 chapters will be far from what we found out in this chapter.
I do see, hopefully it doesn't get axed, but if it can be better consistently, because I've read other mangas with Yakuza type themes, and nice. It's pacing, like Sun Can Rock by Bochi.
Still need to read that.
And that's a great series, and how they build it up is like, we're going from one gang to another gang to another gang to another gang, and then you see like a whole entire like big operation of all of them were just small fries compared to this entire group that took over Japan and China and other parts of the country. But then your group is the underdog of the group, and you're trying to get that one shot in by taking down the boss kind of situation, and that's why I feel like most Yakuza stories are usually is like you're the boss, like the underdog of the boss has to fight the big head honcho of a bigger organization boss in order to like take over kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But how I'm like seeing this is like Ayashimon hasn't really established even more of the vice captains and the other like his commands. Like it's been established. He said like he has like other like side soldiers. Those two mermaids or the twins girl that took over the rock, took over the host club. Like yeah, you're establishing that. Okay, that's gonna be the next enemy. Cool, fine. What's going on from that?
But Aniki and I kind of talked about this, I think, last week about just like the fact that the room for the open world is there. Yeah. Like, so we know that no matter how quickly this situation gets wrapped up, there's still more going on here, because even if we wrap up the fight, you're still not wrapping up what her dad was dealing with and why he was pursuing peace so heavily, why he died. And there's gotta be more to it. And like Aniki pointed out last week, we got the I forgot their name again. The whatever FBI police enforcement.
Yeah, the Angel Bureau, whatever.
The strikers, whatever they're called. But there's still so they've laid a lot of foundation. You know, there's a lot of framework that has been put down. So again, like I said, it's for me, it's the timing and the pacing based off of what the last chapter 2-3 chapters realistically were. That feels really weird, but it's only a chapter. I know it's not gonna be like this next week. You know what I mean? I am very confident it's not gonna be that type of chapter next week. This was just like a necessary pivot. I'm really hoping it's a pivot in a good direction. Even if it ends up being a shorter series, I would really love Shonen Jump to let them get to maybe 6 volumes. You know, I think that would be a good stopping place where I could see the fight resolve, get a little bit more story, have time for like another 2 arcs of like something else going on, and I'd be fine. I'd be fine with that.
And like Jigo Karaku was a 13-volume series, so Yuji Kaku doesn't need 30, 40, 50 volumes to tell a good story. So I think this is one that obviously if they want to, we can kind of expand this to be a 100, 200 chapter series, but this is a series that I think that if it goes to be one of those 200-300 chapter series, I'd be a little worried about it.
Yeah, it just feels too straightforward. I think the things that we talked about like before when we introduced it about what we liked about it was its directness, it's straightforward, you know, the way that they presented the main character, you know, it's I think it ends up losing the novelty of itself if it tries to draw itself out past. Again, I think 60 chapters would be great. I think a good story could be told about this series in 60 chapters because they've already shown to me in 20 chapters how much and how good they can do. You know what I mean? So if I was to give them another 40 chapters to do basically the same sequence of production and quality, I think a good set of story can be told.
I think Samurai 8 was about 60 chapters, so a little bit more than 60, but
yeah.
You give it a high praise. Actually, it was 41.
Okay, but it's a little different with Samurai 8 because...
No, sorry. 43. I was on by 2.
I tried to be generous, but you know.
You try to put some faith in that. You gave it 17 chapters more.
That's almost a full 5 volumes.
Who has 60 is a Gravity Boys. That got 59 chapters.
Yikes.
That was a kind of it was a slow year. Remember, like everything kind of like toppled down because that was when I forgot the other series that got dropped completely, and we feel bad for the illustrator.
Act
Age.
Yeah, Act Age.
Yeah, it was because of that time. Like Act Age is gone. Chainsaw Man want to break.
If I'm correct, the artist went to different work. I forgot what she's doing now. Well, she went to different work.
Actually, Magu-chan had more chapters than Samurai 8.
77.
And I enjoyed Magu-chan too.
Yeah.
Okay, I ended up dropping Magu-chan, but it was fine. I enjoyed it when I read it. It made me laugh usually. I think I read it for like 20 or 30 chapters, just like people were always like harsh on like, how did Hard Boiled Cop and Dolphin last so long? But I quietly enjoyed it in the background.
Those four series, Hard Boiled Cop and Dolphin, Red Hood, Ghost Rider, and Bone Collection are the 4 series that I wish had more chance to survive.
I knew Ghost Rider wasn't gonna stick around long.
I like Ghost Rider, but I'm
the
sad
concept was interesting and the art was fantastic. The art was one of the best ones I've seen. So to see it and the concept about cheating, but also you're worrying about plagiarism, but then you're worrying about the future and then worrying about somebody else's life. That was the concept that got me intrigued. But sadly,
it was absolutely intriguing. But like it had no grounds to stand on to be 100 chapters. You know what I mean?
God no.
No. Like maybe 40 or 50 at least, or do a full year at least.
But I think if you're looking at it from a big company standpoint, if you're only good enough to be 40 or 50, why am I giving you 40 or 50 when I could be giving somebody else 20 chapters?
That is how I think they approach it. Really, if they're like, this is only like if they think this is only good enough, like they don't think. Because like it's one thing to deliberately, like we talk about, craft your story and choose for it to be like 127 chapters long, like I mentioned the previous one. It is another where your story is not that good and it's limping along, and you manage to hit that 40 or 50, and it's only because of magazine space or whatever, where the only reason you're there is because they don't have another batch yet. And that's not a spot they are necessarily going to be happy with in the magazine, but they need the extra pages to sell ad space.
Exactly. And then on top of that, I think people forget that you can still release as an independent artist. Shonen Jump doesn't own the rights to your entire story. They own the story up to the point of release. So if you wanted to continue on your story, if you wanted to release a light novel and finish up your series and sell it independently, or upload it to your own personal website, you're allowed to do these things. Like that's you're not being hindered in any kind of way from completing stories. You just don't have the backing and the publicity that Shonen Jump gives you. You don't have that visibility anymore.
But there are some success. Like there are a few success that came.
Definitely, we talked about that last week. There's definitely a few stories that have jumped to other manga releases, other serializations, and have done well for themselves.
But I think it's because with Hard Boiled Cop, Ghost Rider, I think Phantom Seer 2, Blood Oath and all that stuff like that. It kind of like, it was there to also make Undead Unluck and Masho look better by comparison. And that's kind of what helped push its popularity because there was nothing else to compare it with during the week.
What was that? What was the other one? The other one with the witch thing that was also out around the same time as Masho?
I know what you're talking about, but that the one with the long text, a lot of dialogue, so much dialogue that I couldn't do it.
Yeah, and then when they got to the fights, like the fights didn't last very long.
The Black Clover copycat kind of thing.
Yeah, it was.
I don't know.
Guardian of the Witch.
Guardian of the Witch.
Yes, I remember that one.
I like.
It was alright.
No, like it was good in like the overall. No, we don't. No, not Witch Watch.
I do read Duran though. Duran.
I said to check that one. I'm intrigued on that.
The art was fine. The overall pacing and the progression of their story was fine. It just wasn't compelling enough to do anything else. Like you said, it was kind of just there to make.
Bless you.
God bless you.
Thank you.
I had enough skill and technique to stop the mic and then sneeze. I want to be like you one day, Aniki. But yeah, like again, like you said, Sam, it's the hey, here's this other great series, or you could check this out because it literally released that same week with Mashle. I very vividly remember that it came out at the same time as Mashle.
What I will say with Guardian of the Witch is that I almost want to say they followed the wrong person out the gate, because, and this is something that I think a lot of manga could do this, but fire powers are cool, right? We all agree fire powers, fire. But because they're cool, they're common.
Yes.
Making the Guardian of the Witch use flame magic basically decreased his ability to stand out. And then when you introduce somebody like Claude, who had the rapier and was using gravity magic, instant stand up, because while gravity magic is something, or gravity powers are something that like we think of a little bit, and they're one of my favorite power sets. Like when darkness incorporates gravity, I'm always like, yes, do it. Darkness, gravity, woo! But when you have that option and you choose to go with the more conventional means, you tend to, what it usually means is that as an author, you're going to default to the more conventional choices. And that's what Guardian of the Witch ended up feeling like, where it was just a little too safe.
Yeah, she also had what's her name from Konosuba's kind of disposition of, oh my god, I can't control my bluey explosive powers. And we've been seeing that a lot. And like you said, specifically with fire powers. Like it's just there was the, and that's the thing, there's just, I think overall there was a lot of sense of commonness to it. Like you said, it's like it almost picked, it was like, we're gonna play on the tropes, but like all the bad tropes. Like they picked the bad tropes to decide to use as the ones that they pushed forward.
And I'm gonna say that it also did the same thing wrong that I feel like Samurai 8 did, where one of the best things about Samurai 8 for me for the first like 30 chapters was Anne's character writing.
Yes.
One of the worst things about Samurai 8 for the first 30 chapters was that her power and her contribution to combat was just standing there and literally cheering for Hachimaru so that he could be stronger, and like that would boost him. I hated that decision.
But you're trying to make him a Sakura.
You know why?
You're trying to make it a Sakura.
Why? We know exactly why that happened, because as has been said time and time again, he does not know how to, and I don't think he cares to even improve in that regard in writing characters that are not men.
And the same thing applies to Guardian of the Witch, where yes, I think it's dope that they had the ability to channel their magic through their guardians, and I thought that was a good combo thing and like a way to enhance their power, but they needed more.
Look how long we got to that point, even of explaining that being a part of the power system. It was like maybe 20 or 30 chapters in. I don't even remember how long the series was, but it took a while to get to that point of seeing the combination that they could do.
And they should have made it where the witches were a bit better on their own, not just because it was basically like, oh yeah, I can just make big explosive amounts of magic. Then it should have also been about the witches being able to fight on their own, and then the guardians kind of being helped, and then them eventually like being able to tap into their witches magic without it, kind of like how UBW, for those of you who have watched Fate Unlimited Blade works, where part of what lets him really be able to tap into mana and stuff is getting that part of that seal from Ring.
Right.
Stuff like that is probably where it should have gone. Like that still would have been similar to something else, but it would have created space for the witches to have their own fights and grow, etc., while still giving the guardians like that, you know, ability to have some cool flashy sword fights or whatever, utilizing the magic and stuff too. So I don't know. But
and I think to transition to going back to Ayashimon overall, that I hope that Ayashimon continues this route because it has a lot of potential, like said other series that we have compared to, like for example the chat also brought up when we talk about Vice Captain. Every time when I hear Vice Captain, it always reminds me of Bleach more than because we have always made these captains to a very, it's very mysterious, but once we find out their bankai, the power, they'll be like, oh shit, and their score nerd is amazing. So hopefully with Yashimon, it continues this route of the good type of shonen White Clover. So on this way that we make good entertainment and to the audience with Ayashimon, because I really have high remarks or high potential for this series.
So I think someone kind of mentioned it, and I'll also use this to continue the transition of, so power systems done right, Undead Unluck.
Agreed. That's all.
Undead Unluck to cop on Alvaz's comment, and I think that's a good point to transition into this series, because this chapter destroyed the system of basics understanding of what we thought was kind of happening. Like we thought we like it really. It's funny because I found myself and I knew something was coming. I didn't think it was going to be this extreme. Like Nico and Rip betraying. Like,
Okay.
Okay. You want to start this, Aniki, or should?
Okay, so I'm gonna be honest with you. The Rip thing, I'm like, you know what? This makes sense.
no, that makes sense.
No, Rip makes sense.
No problem with that. The Nico thing, I'm like, oh hell, this is how you want to start coming out as a character to us.
You want to do this, zombie man? You want to be another traitor in the group?
They said my villain arc starts here, but I mean, like they did set that up really well. Especially for not giving him more time. And like I was telling you guys off here, I kind of wish instead of, I know we're on Undead Unluck, I know we're on Undead, I wish instead of giving me as much as they gave me of Andy having interactions and dialogue in this chapter, I wish they would have shown me the fight with Nico. I wish they would have shown the betrayal. Because if they had shown me that, and then next chapter I also got the Rip betrayal, I think I would have been, I was very satisfied. Don't get me wrong. I think I would have been over the moon. Like if I had came out of this week and I was like, oh, Nico. And then I turned into next chapter, the Carnage, you get the message beacon, all the same stuff, most of the same stuff that happened to the tail end of this chapter. And then you actually start like the fight with Rip and Undead. And you just like kind of, you end it kind of in the same kind of like pretense that this chapter does. Yeah, which is funny because it's literally, I'm saying now the exact opposite of what I was just saying about Ayashimon. But yeah, no, overall, I think was a good chapter, just period. Like, I don't even have any criticism at all. Like, I was just kind of like, whoa. Undead Unlock continues to do its thing.
So with Nico's betrayal, like we never really seen Nico fight. He mostly like the smart dude. He's always like the technology guy kind of guy. And he's also like not entirely human. He was like a zombie as a sort.
Right.
Like he's been the oldest and longest living within the Union group. But like, would we say his heel turn more established than I forgot his name, the black haired dude.
Oh, okay. By the way, I haven't just been sitting on my butt here. I went back to the spring fight. Because when we were talking about Nico, and I wanted to read this part off real quick. Those days of my youth, I had spent in love with an unsleeping princess. I cannot ever forget and suffer through the present. And then that's the one that Fuko picks for Nico.
Yeah, so I remembered, and that's why I said the setup for Nico was there, and it was done really well. And that's why I feel like, I guess that's why I wanted to see Nico have that impact. But I very much so understand this decision to head in this direction. Because like I said, in order to do it, you would have needed that extra chapter.
Yeah, there's going to be I know we're going to get the chapter where we're going to get a backstory of Nico eventually. And maybe like 2 or 3 of it, because everybody else had a backstory.
Yeah, and Nico's again, like you said, Nico's been established in the Union for a while, so there's a lot of other like secrets that could be easily exposed through going through Nico's backstory.
He's also been a part of the Union in multiple loops.
Yeah.
So for me, it's and Nico's my thing about Nico is like, dude, what is causing you to do this betrayal? But also something that Rip said and something that Julie said also makes me want to bring up this randomly, which is, do you think that the way you get points is via like partially by participating in quests? And if so, do you think that specifically ties into the arc thing? Because if you notice, like Juiz was like, we won't need another loop, or I won't get to ride the arc this next loop, take my points. So it seems to be that like the privilege to ride the arc is something that you also have to achieve a certain amount of points for, rewarded by the game master somehow, but we don't know who or how the game master is decided.
Right. I think that has to be the case. I think that has to be the case, and I think that's also like attributed to like the power of who has what. So you see who's been the most powerful people of these union teams, and they're basically the ones that's returning to the loop. So realistically, obviously, if they're the more powerful, the more efficient ones, it would make sense that they've had the most points. Now therein, if I am, for instance, Rip, and let's say I'm part of this like cycle, okay, if I'm never going to be able to at this point catch up because we're already in the end game, I'm not going to be able to catch up in earning points, then I got to get rid of the people who have more points ahead of me to climb up into a higher position to increase my chances. And with that same token, I just want to point out the fact of, again, when Rip comes back on the screen and has his conversation and he's like, now I've got 2 people to protect. So again, Rip's stakes have been increasing every episode from the time he's been introduced on the screen to now. His stakes keep increasing over time, and we keep seeing this series has been really good about pushing relationship dynamics without making it overbearing, and how important love and those feelings of love are for multiple characters and multiple pairs of characters, even some characters that have passed on now in the series, how important that love has played in the decisions that all these different characters continue to make. So I think at this point, to see that once again, this love, that this undying love that this zombie man has carried with him, that has been weighing on him, that's really what has been driving him to make the decisions he has been making realistically, from at least what has been presented to us thus far. It's why he's chosen to align with the union for this long, for this point in time. And I think basically that's the gravity of it, right? To then see that person and then be like, well, shoot, if that's the case, I'm gonna just go ahead and let me go ahead and get this Ragnarok going. Let me go ahead and hit the master reset.
I do want to add to what Kenny's saying, and also this brings back to what Aniki said on his timeline, where his favorite character is Miro from My Hero Academia, but he's really a supporting character who's not really used as a main character roster on the main series of My Hero Academia. And for a lot of people, they always want, if you have a big cast, they want more highlights on every single character, which people don't understand. That's what supporting character is. Like our own life, we have friends that we don't talk to all the time, but they're our friends on the side. With Undead Unluck, that's why I feel like it succeeds so well, because every character they introduce or have introduced, each has a certain reason to be there or show or move the story along. Or like James has said, that it moves the needle. When Nico is one of the characters has always been a side character, but has always has support the union. But he has shown a bit of character type of progression in each arc that has moved along. Now that we see this type of betrayal that he did, I love it because it doesn't feel left field, but it feels like it's part of his character, because it felt like where he was gonna come out of nowhere and bring this around for us on the left. So that's a big praise I want to give to Undead Unluck. Like One Piece has like 1,000, 2,000 characters that we know of, but it doesn't each have a highlight. But for example, Undead Unluck has about a big cast, just like My Hero, or a bit smaller, where it does such a great job with each of his characterization. Like for example, I'm drawing blank on his name, but the guy that has a son that serves God, he just got introduced less than 20 chapters ago, but he has brought a good type of agony for Andy and the union, and it's just a good part of the ending of the last 20 chapters that he has brought.
So, okay, real quick. One, I want to point out what Kendall said about was Rip ever really an ally? And he's not really ever like a true official ally.
Because he has always been his own way. Like he has always been his own path, his own route. And he has said that clearly a lot of times.
And I wanted to kind of also just with this whole Rip conversation, because when we were talking about how like the side characters or support characters are using, I would say that we kind of got confirmation that Rip is more of a main cast character. And we specifically got that confirmation during the Autumn arc, because while they were fighting, Ano is talking about the different people involved and actually highlights Rip as one of the main characters of the story. And so we know that Rip and his journey is going to matter going forward, and more than likely the two people who will get to ride the arc, in my opinion, are Fuko and Rip. in my eyes, Andy doesn't actually need to ride the arc to make it to the next loop.
I think also with Fugo being off screen, the antagonist turned Deuteronomous was more so filling the hole of her not being around.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's also like a part that's at play here. I think again, I really appreciate the transition into what's going on here, because we wondered, we've been saying it for like maybe like 3 weeks now, Aniki. We've been like, what's that thing that's gonna push them to that like that next stage? Because it's obvious that like something's gonna happen, some type of merger needs to happen, something needs to progress us to the end point. And this was a really smooth way to be like 50% of the Aniki, him of the Anikis, 50% of the Uma's gone. Like,
I mean,
yo, it's crazy how in the beginning of the chapter, girl which was working out was in page 2-3. Girl which was working out turns around and then sees something wrong, and then literally in page 10-11, they're like, yo, all the Umos have all been killed and we've been betrayed. I'm like, damn, that happened in a matter of seconds or like matter of minutes. Our boy Nico made it work.
This is the one this is what we've been talking about with the Ayashimon. Like, they should have done the moral training as well as like, he's training. They're doing the politics of this. It's like, I think this is the best way to do it.
Things are all happening at the same time. Like, it's seconds and minutes for us, but really that all happened during the entire fight sequence of everything that Andy had been doing. So it's been hours. They haven't checked back in with home base in hours. And home base is calling in now, and it's just like,
we're fucked.
Everything's not okay. Everything's not okay in the slightest.
And to go at it, to cause Ragnarok go faster by killing all, like, most of the Umas within the base itself.
Yeah, he killed. So that means he killed like atmosphere, snow, a couple of those ones. And
knowing that, and then you automatically cause Ragnarok to come in much earlier before the mission state. Because I'm pretty sure there's nothing much left you can do to push, like, to try to extend the whole entire month. So I guess they are gonna have to try to somehow move into the next loop.
Yeah, the priority has to be art, which does make Rip's timing good for him and his goal. The priority has to be art because there's pretty much no way to stop this. And they said we'll usher in God, which likely means that when they say Ragnarok is going to start, they literally intend to, like,
it already happened like
or something.
Next 2 or 3
like,
chapters or so.
Yeah, like we're going to Ragnarok. This is,
which, not lie, not that I didn't expect it to happen. I thought there was going to be a good turn of events. Like, I felt like by chapter 80 or 90, I was like, okay, the series might end in the next 20 chapters. The next 20 chapters later, I'm like, oh, hell no. There might be another Rin cycle unless they find a way to cancel Ragnarok at the last second. But looks like there might be another Rin cycle, which if it does happen, I would have no problem to see another cycle with Andy and then Fuko, and then him start new characters with the whole type of union. That'd be intriguing.
So remember, I remember like a couple arcs back with the mangaka, like he or she knew the ending of the story, and he knew that without Fuko, this entire loop would end. And we're having an arc where without Fuko, everything is progressively moving much faster than it is. There's more panic, there's more destructive, and it's really gonna cause the next entire loop because we don't have Fuko in here, like helping us or anything with it.
And if you remember, that was the whole reason, was to keep Fuko alive, and specifically it was via stabbing from an unseen opponent that led to Fuko dying and them being in this position. Except I think they failed to beat one of the season quests. So instead, they just timed it where, okay, we still need to kill Fuko, set it up so this loop is going to be a failure. And then more than likely we lose Juiz and we have to start over. And with so many things having been killed, what I could see happening is them killing the rest of the Uma they have in storage before Ragnarok starts. So that way, at least when the loop starts over, there's a bunch of less rules that have to be added again over time. But it depends on which concepts and stuff they have. And
Juiz, we will probably see every other members union if there does the loop happen. But Juiz, might not show up since she is
She
already
won't have her
and have joined the arc.
memories, I think. If I'm correct, with Moon, right? That's or Luna. That's her name.
Yeah, when she was talking to the moon spirit, it kind of seems like Juice either expects to not go back to the loop at all, or like not exist in the next loop, or not have her memories in the next loop.
That's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, if I'm correct, she cannot, or maybe could, but maybe have no memories out. So that was my guess. So yeah, like, which do you guys prefer? If she does come back with no memories, or if she does not come back at all?
If you're not on the arc, you're gonna lose your memories. It doesn't mean that your entity doesn't exist in the next loop. You need to be on the arc to preserve your memories.
And the issue with that is that even if Juice makes it through the next loop and she has injustice in the next loop, does that really matter if she doesn't have all her memories anymore?
Exactly.
Yeah, because the only person that really knows how the loop works is technically Victor, Juice, and the Archangel and the zombie dude. They're the only ones who actually know how to work. And I'm shocked that we have not seen Victor in a while, where he hasn't popped up or spoken to Andy.
I feel
in
like
some
Victor
way.
would be the most pissed, or the more have to come out more.
I can't imagine his attitude. He'd be like, "Yeah, I just keep fucking shit up."
Victor, I think you guys are overplaying how much Victor cares.
Yeah,
really think so?
He doesn't really care as much.
He doesn't care.
Because he could survive no matter what, so he doesn't really care at this point.
He's already basically said, like, you do what you want, I'm gonna continue to exist. Like, yeah, you won this round, kind of thing. So I don't think Victor is really pressed in any kind of way.
I think Victor expects him to fail.
I think he just gives up. Like, he just gave up everything.
Yeah, he's like, all right, y'all want to do this, go for it, but you're gonna be disappointed.
Yeah,
hit me up later.
I think that's the case, and I think the wording that we don't know enough about the loop. We know everything about the loop. We don't know about everything else in regards to the. We don't know about the arc. We don't know about what ends and starts a loop, but we know what the loop is. We know, like, there's a start, there's an end, and there's a recycle. Like, we know what.
Yeah.
The loop is. We don't need to know anything.
We don't know the progress
about the loop. What we don't know is we don't know about Ragnarok. That's what we really don't know about. That's what we're trying to understand right now. We don't know about the arc. We've been told about the arc, but we don't know about the arc. We don't really know any of the specifics around the arc. But the loop, we know what the loop is. The loop is just the start and the end of the loop of the entire word.
Yeah, because we don't know if the loop, like, when our girl Fuku went inside Victor / Andy's mind, she has went to the 1700s, 1600s, 1800s, and everything. So we know that there is, like, years within the loop, but we don't know once you repeat, and this is going to be the final loop. Would it go back to the 2000s? Would it go back to 19? Or would it literally start at the Big Bang, where you literally sit through the next 2,000 years one more time?
It's the life cycle of the Earth. Let's assume that the Earth lives up to 2,000 years of 2,000 years after, right? So let's say it's 4,000 years, because we've seen, and the reason I can make this assumption is that when we was back again, Autumn Clutch arc, like, we really probably we could easily go back and do an Autumn review, but when Andy goes back into his past, it's a lot of past. It's years. It's different generations of time that passes in this loop, in just this loop. You see what I'm saying? So Andy's gonna come back. Andy is not someone that was born in 1987 and he's just, a couple years old now in the mid 20s to early 2020s or whatever. Of where the story is, like, no, like, Andy has been around for millennia himself, like centuries.
Andy was okay. I think a lot of people don't remember or, like, see the detail, but one of the things that Julius talks about early in the series is how the rule of sex, like, was added. And if you really pay attention in that first flashback, and I think we even talked about this last week, where Andy and Juice, or Victor and Juice, both look more androgynous in the initial flashbacks, which goes back to meaning, like, they were, like, two of the first humans existing before even the difference between man and woman was around.
Right.
So, like, they've both been doing these loops for I don't know how long, which is part of why I think Juice is willing to sacrifice this final loop, because if the 101st loop is the final loop anyway, All right, I'm done. I give up. I lost either way.
And I think that brings back the point of Victor, and why I think Victor's like not gonna. I don't think Victor's playing a part. I think Victor, if Victor plays a part, is gonna be like towards Endgame. But I think we're like I said, we're over expecting things from Victor.
Don't make him the powerful meat guy.
Yeah, he'll be the
distraction guy.
He'll be the ex machina of whatever is going on in that current situation. But again, ultimately, Victor has been around. Andy has been around. Their entity has been around for a forever. And I won't go as far as saying Adam and Eve, but it's definitely giving Adam and Eve kind of vibes. And again, Victor, I think that's why Victor was okay with stepping back even at that moment. I think he foresaw that Julius was going to possibly sacrifice themselves. And for that reason and that reason alone, he's like, well, if the end is going to come eventually, then let me see how you get to the end. And I think that's just where Victor is right now. Just full on spectator mode.
A lot of it is very interesting too, because Rip is technically not really a side character in this sort of way, because he's supposed to be one of the heroes, quote unquote, from the mangaka person. And Rip, it sounds like Rip is one of the keys to win in this fight, especially how we've seen him fight Unruined, like he's not able to heal, and how his presence health. And then we see when they were getting away, blood replaced Unruined's arm. And that sort of thing. I think Rip, something that Black Clover has not been able, that does not do successfully, let a different character kill the main villain at once. He's like, for a change, is what I believe. But looking back, Rip does not want to be a hero. And like the two people that he wants to rescue are Latda and the girl that's on the wheelchair. And she explains saying like he doesn't want to be a hero. He just wants to be. He wants to play a villain, because if he were to be a hero, he had to give up on her. Meaning like the reason why Rip has two people to save is, and the whole reason why he's fighting Andy right now is the arc. Maybe he just wants to be greedy now and choose to revert to the next cycle, hopefully to see her again. That kind of explains what he's in it for. It's just for Andy to have Andy or Victor to tell him where the arc is. But
yeah. I mean, I don't know. Because I still feel like, and again, I don't think that tattoo is significant of birth here. I think that actual tattoo is remembrance of a loss. But I'm not about to go back and read this whole series right now to give the context to that. But there's context that's probably significant of a loss more so than a birth. And even again, when the flashback happens, and again, we're in that Midwestern times, you could say it's the 1800s or the 1860s or whatever, but Andy had already been living for some period of time before he ran into that group of people. So like I said, I would literally have to go back, and I would literally need to reread the entire series. But contextually, I think Andy has been alive for more than 2 centuries. But that is my guess. Which way.
Wasn't it Victor first, and then Andy? Wasn't it Victor first, and then Victor decides to give up, and then a new person?
That's my point. That's my point. Again, is that the context is there that Andy has been alive for centuries. Maybe not with the personality Andy, but Andy himself has been alive for centuries. Just Andy.
But yeah,
I agree with that aspect overall. So, Undead Unluck, great chapter. Can't wait to see if the loop happens.
Remember how deep this man's book was? First of all, his book of like his life. Like that thing, man.
Multiple lives and multiple histories.
I'm still mad at Victor being mad and fucking petty, killing our girl Fuka. Like, hey, you cannot see more information. Bye. Die.
Well, Victor's the kind of person that's like, yo, I'm just gonna kill you as an act of mercy, because you don't have to face the sadness and whatnot and stuff. Because that's what he did. Because he wanted to kill Jules for that reason. I don't want her to suffer anymore. I'll be the one to kill her.
By the way, that is a sad love story. Like knowing that you and your partner have been going through this time and again, and you as a person who's undead are not really affected by this because your mind and everything of her as a human, and you just feel bad for her, for your lover, and all you have to do is like you think the best for her to do it is kill her.
Which
like,
is worse, this situation or Seven Deadly Sins situation?
Let's not talk about it. Hang on.
Well, if you're speaking about Meliodas and Elizabeth type of scenario, and if you're speaking about Victor and Joyce,
I think Victor and Joyce is worse because she doesn't collect this fully in the different life cycles, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but because Elizabeth does at the end of her cycle.
It's basically in them breaking the cycle that she's able to recall and understand everything.
It's crazy because
Luis and Victor the whole time have both understood that this was what was happening. So I feel like it's a little more painful in that regards.
They're both painful because they're both technically Meliodas and Elizabeth. They're both trying to fight gods, aka their parents. But then Victor and Joyce are technically fighting the literal god of their own creation, of their own world. So I feel like what's harder or what's more devastating is technically Victor and Joyce for me in my scenario, because you're literally trying to fight the laws of nature. You're literally trying to fight God in itself, trying to fight in their own love and their own mentally itself. So I feel like their relationship is more hard.
Meliodas would have been fine just being reincarnated over and over. I don't think he cared. Like he just knew.
No, he wasn't the one. He wasn't the one reincarnated.
It was he the one that could.
I'm saying he would have been fine with her just reincarnating over. Like he didn't. I feel like I don't want to say like that's what it was, but like his personality is one such that like he was like, oh, I'm going to love this woman forever. So if I have to keep, I'm gonna keep making her fall in love with me. Like I don't think that's like a fulfilling thing in any kind of way.
No, but it's more of a painful kind of thing.
And that's what I was trying to Sam, is that it's more painful because he has to go through that process every time. However, on the flip side of it, it's just him for a long time going through that process by himself.
Yeah, like it's just him, no friends. He finally got the friends because of Seven Deadly Sins. But before that, maybe 2,000 years, maybe 1,500 years, he was by himself. The last 500 years or 1,000 years, he found King, he found Bond, he found them. So he was less lonely.
It wasn't the weight of the world. It wasn't the world dying over and over. And it was
it's just loneliness. Yeah. And that's a sad thing.
The whole world is ending. Like you're trying to say the love of your life, the world is destroying, and everything that you do is just leading you literally back to the same exact point every time. To me, that's just way, way worse to me.
The what if Doctor Strange story.
Right.
Oof. Oh yeah. So in your question, Sam, for me is Joyce and Victor in the scenario of that question, who had it worse as a couple and of what they've gone through. So in that scenario, I definitely think them too.
But then like you have Victor who's like, I don't want to do this anymore. He cuts off his entire memory, like his entire brain, just so a new personality can be made. Just so that he doesn't want to, doesn't need to continue the cycle anymore. You rather have someone else that's you, but it's a different personality to continue with the life. But even if your other personality loves a different woman, it's not you yourself that does it.
Yo, Alvis, nice comment on that. God is the demon king in this JRPG. Which is true. In this scenario, yeah. He's the one that holds all the cards, so he's the one that can do whatever the F he wants. So in that scenario, 100% get. But
maybe
I think we're good.
Maybe he was really the watcher. He just can't interfere, but he could only just watch.
Right.
You also saying this series of Undead Unluck reminds me so much of what's it called? If y'all have seen, what's the HBO Max show? I mean the HBO show that's popular like Game of Thrones, but it's not Game of Thrones. It's not the Watchers, not the Witchers with a W.
Westworld.
Thank you, Sam. So it's very similar to Westworld, where they have their own people that they control their actions and see what they do, and if they change something, they do something else. So it's very similar in Westworld, because Westworld is controlled by other people, like gods in their own way. there's a whole concept with Westworld, which I highly recommend for anybody have seen it. I've only seen the first 2 seasons. I think there's 4 or 5 seasons out, but I highly recommend to anybody have seen Westworld. If you enjoy Undead Unluck, the concept in the series itself, go watch Westworld. I highly recommend it.
It's different. It's a different concept all in general. But yeah, well, let's move on to the next series. Kaiju number 8, chapter 60.
Kaiju. Damn, so we're gonna say Black Clover before JJK. Ew,
we talking about Black Clover at all?
You guys want to talk about it? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was a whole optional suggestion.
Yeah.
We can talk Black Clover.
I would like to, because I just want to put my feelings out, my thoughts out, because I haven't had the chance to say in the past 2 or 3 shows since I only spoke about One Piece the past couple shows. I just want to say, Sam, if you could do the time code for Black Clover.
I'm already got it. Yeah, I have the time code. It's good.
All right, cool. So Black Clover, man, what the fuck?
Disney
man?
Channel.
Like,
Disney Channel. Okay, sure. Mm-hmm.
Yo, hey, look.
No,
don't say Disney Channel, because American Dragon Jake Long goes harder than this.
Yo,
okay. How about this? New
stakes too.
Current generation of Disney Channel. How about that?
All right.
I don't know, because I haven't seen that, so I don't know about that. But it makes me feel like, yo, all right. So the only cool thing that I saw in chapter 329, 330, I would say, the devil that's been watching the whole time grabbed the heart of Lucifer and Girdler said, this is all wanted. I'm out. I'm like, all right, cool. This is what I've been wanting, that when the gates of hell, only 2 gates open out of the 8, I was hoping for some devils to be like, yo, why do we gotta fight these people? I'm gonna dip and do my own thing. I was hoping for some of these devils to do that. Finally, some devil did it, because I was hoping before those twin devils, when our boy Knock fought them like 20 or 40 chapters ago, I was hoping for those devils to do it, because they look like they literally just came to cause some havoc, but instead they got their ass kicked. But I'm happy that this random devil that we don't know who this person is, but I'm glad she literally grabbed the heart and literally said, I'm out, I'm a dip. So that was pretty intriguing on my part. But then we see after she does that, and everyone else were like, yo, we gotta save these 2. Like, they're literally on the brink of death. Like, they're literally the door about to be passed over to heaven. But then somehow uses star magic, because he is broken as hell, and brings Mimosa here. But she said, yo, I'm out of magic, my guy. So what makes sense, because we know Vanessa broken magic, the fate of Cat, literally brought them out and literally say, yo, if you want your magic, here, eat up. This has been the stigma of Black Clover, aka the Black Bulls, where each of these characters are broken in their own way, and that's how Yami has always presented his brigade. So it fits for the Black Clover style, but that's a good thing and a bad thing, where Tabata knows his style, Tabata knows his formula and knows what it is, but for the current Shonen Jump type of roster, that everything else, JJK, One Piece, and everything else keeps trying to do something different. Black Clover, I bet you $1,000 that it would have succeeded a lot more if it was out during the Bleach and Naruto and One Piece time, because I feel like with what's going with the same stigma, we're all kind of a bit sour of it, because it feels like it's okay. Stakes are not always needed, but when you feel like it's been rinse and repeat each type of arc, like the water arc, the elf arc, and everything, everyone gets damagedly hurt. Everyone's close to death, but then somehow there's always a big type of health magic that will heal everyone. And I'm like, do we really need that? Can we at least have somebody lose an arm or lose a nose or lose a toe or lose some type of body part to at least show that there was a big Lucifer? All right, cool. Lucifer literally said last chapter saying that I don't got all my magic. Half of magic is still in the underworld. I'm like, all right, cool. But you still get your ass kicked. And then said that I'm gonna come back next time. And then they said, nah, there ain't no next time. So it's like this chapter, as a fan of Black Clover and knows the type of formula, I get it. I see why it happened and why it turned out this way. But as a fan of Shonen Jump and a fan of hoping the series each gets better, this felt like, okay, it's Black Clover. That's how it is for me. That was my rant. Next, Aniki.
Look, man. My issue with Black Clover Like I agree that I think Black Clover would have been more successful if it had come out 10, 15 years ago. And I don't want to undercut, because here my personal opinion to Bata is that I think I would enjoy a manga where somebody else wrote the story and he drew it. I don't think he has bad art. I don't think
His art is great.
Yeah, like he does set up some good shots, has some cool styles and ideas. But it's like the story itself is so safe. It's so safe that I can't be like the track record of saving people has made it where my suspension of disbelief or my ability to feel tension in some of the more higher stakes scenarios is just naturally dulled. And even with this plot again, like, you know how like when people are like, oh yeah, this again, like yeah, like when people talk about like, oh, you know what my man is getting for Christmas after he bought me a house and all this, and then people are like, sucks again. I kind of feel like our next antagonist of the next arc is Adremalek, and that creates like that feeling of, oh, devils again, three arcs straight.
So the chat Avis brought up almost like Hiro Mashima. I can't trust a dude with any story after Fairy Tail. So look at this. It's crazy to believe that right now I will stay up front on 4/17/2022. I would say that me putting money, I have enjoyed Eden Zero, Hiro Mashima next work that he has done, and right now almost has 200 chapters. I've enjoyed Eden Zero a lot more than Black Clover recently. And that's not saying much. When Eden Zero is a step up from Hiro Mashima previous work, Fairy Tail, in the last arc. For anybody has read Fairy Tail in the last arc, you know you have your problems with it or not. You know they could have been a lot better with the stakes and everything that's going on within that story. But for Black Clover,
Mashima would tell you to like, yo, hold my drink, hold my phone.
Because
with Fairy Tail 1G request, not a lot of people are like on it basically, and that might have been mixed feelings at this moment for me.
I read season 1 of Eden Zero. Also, why is Kenny hiding? I've read season 1 of Eden. I've watched.
He's like, yo, guys, I'm good on Black. I'm gonna go on to the next topic, so just call me back when we're there.
I'm not even supposed to be here yet.
If I'm honest, I enjoyed the first season of Eden Zero more than I liked the first 24 or 25 episodes of Black Clover.
Oh, the first 24 of Black Clover are hard to get to, so I respect anybody that don't get to. It's hard.
But part of that I will say is a little cheating, because you remember I mentioned earlier, darkness, gravity, yay! And that is wow, I forgot his name's power. The leads for Eden Zero's power though.
Shiki?
Yeah, Shiki. Because for some reason it was like coming up as Shino in my head, and I was like, that's not right.
That's close though.
Yeah, so yeah, Shiki's powers, you know, obviously like Shiki Grandbell. There we go. Redeeming myself a little bit there. But yeah, no, I enjoyed Shiki and Eden Zero more than I liked what we've been getting out of early Black Clover and what I've seen of it. So
the thing is that where do we go next? Like, for example, there are so many things that Tabata have set up before. Like, for example, our girl Charmy has dwarf magic, but then she also has another magic. She has 2 types of magic, and she's half dwarf from what we saw. So I was like, oh, cool. We have dwarves in this type of world in this series. Are we gonna ever go to that world, or see the 9 realms, just like in Thor, in those type of mythologies? So Tabata have laid so much seeds of really high parts that we could get to, but it's like he's so stuck on the I respect. And I know there's readers out there that likes a good ending, that likes a good safe side, and I respect that. People want to feel safe in their stories. People want to see your MC being happy, having and being alive. People don't want to see like Yuji, getting his heart out because Sukuna don't give a fuck. I get that people want to see the good side of Asta, always talking about never giving up because it's a beautiful message, it's powerful because you always chase after your dreams. I get and respect. But with all that, you can still have good storytelling and have stakes within all that and being safe. It just depends how you write it. And Tabata just want to stay safe in that whole lane. And if you do, all right, cool. But for that, it's like, where do we go next with your story? And is there gonna feel any type of tension? Because those hype moments get tension, but then your characters are right now power scaling is all off the charts because our boy Asta, are broken as hell. Has 2 Dream Wars. This guy's like a vice captain. So this guy, could technically be the next Wizard King if he wants. Because that's what I feel like with his power scaling.
Oh,
that's where it's at right now.
Is so the thing about and so what I'll say is that the thing that is in Noct's favor is that I think it's fair to argue that Noct is captain level.
Yes.
Which also pretty much hard confirms Black Bulls as like the strongest faction because they have 3 captain level fighters, and like you can argue that the Golden Dawn has 3 also, but I feel like the bench, like there's just a deeper pool as far as like how ridiculous the scaling gets with the Black Bulls because they've got like fate manipulation and all.
They're all broken. Each single of those characters broken. Like even a girl,
the least broken member will make it so that you are both as equally busted as each other. AKA
Luck and Manga, they're the most regular characters out of, but still strong as hell in their own type of respected way.
Because the reality is that Magma may have
not a regular character. I just want to interject real quick. I've been holding my tongue. I'm not gonna let you disrespect Luck like that. Luck is broken. No, I don't think y'all understand what Luck's ability potential actually is.
He's not broken, but he kept the intellect that his elf counterpart used his body, that his body remember those type of elf attributes, and he kept it and put his own style. But he doesn't have any crazy attributes.
It's not just that. Luck is an elementalist. I don't think if y'all realize this about the series so far, but there are certain people who embody a certain element. Luck is the embodiment of that element, which means he is actually one of the most broken characters that we have just not tapped into yet.
As far as like lightning users go, he's definitely seemed to be like, he seems to be at least as or stronger than Gaja currently.
No, he's stronger than Gaja.
Yeah,
I'll put on that. He's stronger than Gaja because I feel like Luck has done more.
His potential is well beyond Gaja's.
And that's the thing is that, so really, I guess what we could say is like, to a certain degree, like the Black Bulls is filled with, because also Noelle is arguably captain class. So you basically have like 6, 7, 8 captain class people in the Black Bulls.
That's a fact.
So
which it makes sense. Like it makes sense. Like for example, like a series like Naruto, all his classmates, for example, if they did get all captain level by 700 chapters, it makes sense because you're already at the end of the series. But for Black Clover, it's hard to tell if it's about to end or if there's a next series or next arc, or if we're gonna go somewhere next. So for these characters to be almost captain class level when we're only at, I think, 330 chapters, it really makes you question like, okay, so where the fuck are we gonna go next with this captain class type of character? How can Yami and Noct be telling them, all right guys, let's surpass our limits? Like, Captain, we already surpassed our broken limits, and we already have almost stronger than any type of villain that pops up next. Where can we go? Where can we reach to start? Like, what's next for these type of granny dark magic and everything?
Because my thing about this is that all of them scaled up and hit some limit breaks during this war arc, basically. Like during this 100%. Arc. And then they had training arcs on top of their limit breaks, or training arcs, like limit breaks to training arcs to limit breaks. Because, technically they trained, fought the triad, went past their limits, and then did some more training, and then came back to break their limits again.
And then broke their limits in the fights.
Right. So what that puts is like, now these are all characters who are at least like mid-level demon. Like a bunch of these are like mid-demon tier level characters now. Or fine, you might not be as strong as the like Zagrid or Lucifero, or like the Dark Triad members, but you are in that realm of like demon level strength now, where by the time the next like round happens, by the end of the next, they'll like almost all these characters are gonna have to be like demon level, with like Asta, Yuno, and Noelle, and all of them likely registering at least as strong as we see Lucifero to be.
And lastly, remember before this war arc, before the time skip, what happened to the big importance of arcane magic? When literally once we came here, literally all the captains could somehow fight some type of devil and hold their ground. But Arcane was felt so special that only Yami and only Nak and only Asta and the Bird Secret could do it. But then now some like every devil, like, all right, our girl Marilona, understandable why girl could fight a damn devil that big because she's broken outside and she's just very fiery. But then when other captains that could do some type of damage, but didn't do much, I'm glad they kept it that type of balance. But when you have the main Black Bulls who are taking the main characters with Asta that broke it, it makes the other captains kind of useless. And also, like, understandable, this is a chapter in Yami and I'll go Charlotte. You know, there's been a comedy for the past for the whole series. Girl says, "Yo, I love you, Yami," while he's dead knocked out on death's door. When he wakes up, "Hey, didn't you tell me something?" And girl gets all shy again. Like, for a second, I was happy. Oh yes, I do love you, Yami. I was hoping to see some type of character progression, but I guess that's me being too hopeful for the series or for the character. But I was hoping to see some type of like, yes, Yami, I do love you. I am grown up.
It's not you being hopeful. It's the mangaka being scared.
Like, what's so wrong to show some adult love? Like, that's literally some adult love is normal. Like, they're all above the 20s. Yami and Charlotte are older.
Walked to the line of saying, you know what? You guys are about to lose Yami. Wrote all of the words, the stories, had the confession, and was like, you know what? I changed my mind. Thread of Fate, Mimosa Heal, and really and truly, so that's why I've been holding my head and hiding my face.
I wanted to.
This was all just kind of like to reintroduce the other characters and remind everyone, because we haven't seen them collectively in spaces for a little minute, of like who are the broken powers in the series right now. So this was, hey, remember Mimosa? Because Mimosa's powers are, we now know that she has like next level healing. There's no one in the
she's top tier. She's top tier for sure.
It's not even top tier. She's in a class by herself with healing. No one in the world can heal on Mimosa's level. She has one of the most broken abilities.
Agreed.
The thread of fate, the cat. That's one of the most. Again, just showing you who got highlighted here. You know, Star Magic. Look at
already being a Saint stage wind user before the starter magic.
Exactly.
And so the rightful king to the Space Kingdom.
It's highlighted, you know, again, we talked about the dwarf, we talked about the food magic. They even point at Gray. It's like Gray is like, oh damn, I can't even do anything about. So it was this reminder of who has the broken abilities is what this was. And Charlotte is also in that category of being this kind of cursed magic user ability that hasn't really been fully dived into. And so you basically have the cast of this family that's falling in around Yami, and that's all that's really present here. Bless you. That's all that's really present here. Bless you again.
Thank you.
Bless you.
I just don't see. This was just like, again, reestablishing all the cast on the screen and kind of trying to figure out like where the placement of things is. I think, Aniki, you know, you and I have kind of been like, you know, saying that this is like we're progressing towards the end. I don't think we're out of the end progression stage. It's just that we went from it. You could have ended this series in 10 to 15 chapters, and now you're going to make it 50 to 100 chapters.
Yeah. Like, that's why I'm like devils again. And the one thing that's like saving the scaling of the future is that Lucifer was an incomplete manifestation, but it's like,
right,
we shouldn't have to go through those hoops to make this arc's conclusion. Just like I guess cool, we preemptively can justify them struggling with the Adrenaline in the future, but it just still feels kind of hollow now, because it's like, because you introduced Adrenaline here, because of this, it's like almost all of this still could have happened. Like, Adrenaline has no excuse to not kill everybody here right now. But because like he could have taken the core and then just ripped off the heads of like Asta, Lee, Yami,
that was a big. There's something else at play here, and even like, you know, Vash, you was talking about like the twins before. Again, the core foundation of the Demon Society, as we've been told, is power. So there's no reason not to listen to Lucifero for every other rank demon that is under Lucifero. There is literally no reason to go against. There's no reason to rebel. The only people in a state to rebel are people who are on equal power footing as Lucifero. And what we all know about anything and the amount of games and video games that we play is when you take a Daemon Heart, you're going to use it to create some type of super powerful weapon or make yourself more powerful by some type of ritual or something or the other, or unlock something else that's been sealed away that there's no other way that it could have been unlocked any other way. And so, again, the level of predictability is greatly just constantly increasing at this point as we continue to repeat the same tropes over and over and over again in Black Clover. Like I was saying before, we came on, it's like it's boring now. Like this fight wasn't compelling.
It wasn't. Like
it's that this isn't the end of the series. This was one of the most boring boss fights we've got in this entire series.
We still haven't forgotten the main reason of this war arc was for fucking Asta, because to technically be justified for him not to be exiled from the Clover Kingdom. So now this is what happens next. Now that he took away some of the demons, and now did he clean his name, or did he make himself more look like a demon because his arm, or because he let a demon away? Those things are going to be questioned and answered hopefully in the next couple of chapters. Would it be done well?
Isn't the country technically gone in this sort of?
No, yeah, I'm gonna say even if that were the case, the point was like you'll get off if you can beat the demons. So it doesn't matter. He's already cleared his condition to be granted access back, if that was what like the concern is. But the concern was never really about Asta. It was that Asta was being made to be the fall guy for the situation. It was never anything like that. So I think Aniki and I was talking about, like, obviously there has to be some healing for all of these three main kingdoms, maybe some type of unification thing. I think even though Aniki is not ending the way that we thought, like it would progress to an ending, I still think that's the next step, regardless, is that you have to kind of go back and deal with the fact of the state of the world. There has to be some type of unification. Still has to go back to his kingdom. Everything that
Princess Undine
steps are still the next steps.
So Princess Undine was saved, or whatever, or Undine is the spirit, and
Lola Pachika.
Yeah, Lola Pachika. Lola Pachika was saved. So you have Lola Pachika now, who's already friends with a member of royalty within the Clover Kingdom with Noelle. So
and Spain Kingdom of Yuno.
You have exactly. So you now have royals across multiple kingdoms that are on extremely good terms.
You never killed the Wizard King.
They never killed the Wizard King. The Dark Triad specifically was the political governing body taking over for the monarchs in the Spade Kingdom. So from that perspective,
Diamond, Mars is there too. Or
Mars already corrupted the king with their potion corrupted, which led to him being fixed. So they're allies with the Clover Kingdom. So now all the kingdoms have a reason to come together and be allied. And we already reason for there to even be four kingdoms at this point.
Yeah, we already know that the Diamond Kingdom is gonna just follow whatever Yuna does, because all of the other followers were always just waiting for this long lost child to begin with. So they're all gonna. There's no one's gonna challenge that. They're all gonna cave in to their great hero, supporter, and the true heir to their kingdom. And if anything, what's gonna happen is they're gonna all come together and think that Yuno is the better pick to be in charge, or everyone's gonna have somebody different, which could lead to another issue. Yuno might be the Diamond Kingdom, the Spade Kingdom's pick. Undine has allied herself with our girl, so maybe Noelle. Noelle should be the pick, and then maybe the everyone else is gonna be like, maybe it should be Yami, or maybe it should be Asta, or whatever the case may be. But I think either which way, there's like you said, there's this unification point, and like I said, all the things that we said last week between me and Aniki, all of those things still have to happen. I just don't see why draw out the series. Like I said, you could have ended the series at a point and then bring a spin-off or a continuation series afterwards that gives you a time to take a break. As a mangaka, personally, I think that would have been great. Work on like your story. Think about how you really want to direct the new story. You could keep some of the old characters, reestablish new characters. Like Noelle could have her own captain, her own group now. She could be in charge of her own thing. Maybe I could, like me and Aniki kind of went back on this last week about there's just different directions you could go. Have some type of fast forward. Again, I don't think the Wizard King is ever. I think they kind of clearly pointed out he's never gonna get back his full powers, even if he ages up. Like he's never gonna have back the full powers. He does have
had a whole book above the whole tower. I'm like, sheesh.
Yeah, he's gonna be able to develop pages, but his just based off of the nature of where his magic is at this point, at that age that he is, he'll never amass that amount again in his lifetime, essentially. So it's just a matter of like, where do you want the story to go? And by doing what has been done, now is just a bigger question of like, okay, well, what next? Like, I'm literally just like, I've been saying what next for like 20 chapters. So what next?
And that's something I hope with Tabata or Shonen Jump does. Like, for example, the I believe it's Blue Star Exorcist. I believe. I believe the manga took a break. Blue Exorcist. Thank you, Sam. Yeah, Blue Exorcist. I believe the mangaka took a break for 6 or 8 months. Bless you. I believe he took a break for a good 6 to 8 months for almost a year, but it's because they have more of the privilege because they do monthly chapter, and bless you, where they can have enough time to do their story, the art, whatever they want to do. Oh, take a break overall. It sucks that when they do content for the weekly Shonen Jump, bless you, of where it's harder for them to take a break, because I wish Tabata with that ass or Oda or any mangaka that is having a struggle of where they feel the pace in the story needs to speed up or something, where they could be like, all right, cool, I'm gonna take a 2-month break and jot down how to go with my direction Black Clover. Because right here is a good point to tell the audience, hey, I'll be back, for example, today's April 17th. I'll be back June 17th. I'm gonna take a good 2-month break so he could tell us, like, hey, I'm gonna fix the story.
Tabata already did that. They did.
He's taking weeks breaks, but not actually like an actual month break, and that's something I wish Tabata or mangakas should
My stance is that I agree with you, Vash. I think Tabata needs more time off.
But the best way to do that would be to finish the current story.
Oh, I agree that like just wrapping it up.
Well, like current arc or the current series of Black Clover and the start.
Like, it could be the same thing. They can be the same thing. Black Clover, as it currently stands, I said this last week. I don't give me Black Clover refresh. Give me Black Clover next stage. Give me Black Clover dawn of a new kingdom. Give me whatever you want to call it. Let the original run of Black Clover end right here in this.
So like a Chainsaw Man Part 2 in a way.
Whatever. I almost feel like Tabata should, and I think that this is something that should be explored a bit more of a series as they've been running a long time, and it should be done if we notice that like a mangaka is having like health issues. I personally think it takes them about, like as far as like a weekly release schedule goes, it takes them, that 12 to like a good 10 to 11 weeks to get all the chapters out for a volume and then put that together depending on how many pages the chapters are, etc. I think that if we gave Tabata instead the option to put out 2-3 volumes a year, instead of having to try to keep up with weekly release, and instead of just getting into volumes.
I agree. Yes,
I think might be better for him with everything going on right now.
Yeah, his kids, his health overall. So like that's something I hope for. Because like Black Clover is not a horrible series at all. It's just that it has potential, and the potential is not tapped, and then makes it very underwhelming. Where you want more, you crave for more out of a said type of content, some type of medium, where it makes you like, okay, just have a Black Clover, which the cast is good. The cast does a good job. Like, for example, I'm staring at the last page. We didn't see any hype moment of Zora, and he's one of my favorite characters out of the Black Bulls, and we only saw probably 2 hype moments or 1 hype moment, and that's when he used the chat magic on him to block Lucifer attack. That's it.
And it didn't even amount to anything.
Zora and Magma are.
Oh, wait. Magma did a hype moment.
Hear me. Let me finish my point. Let me land. Zora and Magma are non-royals that serve the same function. Therefore, there was no reason, which is why they were combined into the same reason to separate and give. They got, and no matter what we want to think about it, they're just not main cast characters. I think there's this idea that you want to keep everyone that's in the Black Clover involved, but they're the C team. You know what I mean? Like there's the A team, there's a B team, and they're on the C team.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Should we move on, or do you guys want to keep going?
It's unfortunate because Zora was introduced as a character, like his introduction was very 18 level. And I personally find the way he fights and the way that like because he's fighting with trap magic, and I think that requires a lot of thought, but I guess that also makes it where Zora is a hard character to write around if you have not already planned out.
And then they introduced, don't forget, they introduced rune magic shortly afterwards.
And rune magic is fucking dope. And
what I like about the runes is that it retroactively also made some of his spells make more sense. And it gives Zora a place to go as a character too with his power level that I'd love to see him develop some permanent seals on his body so that he always has the ability to like counter trap something that hits him. Like that would be something that'd be kind of dope.
I agree. And I think there's still potential for that. But I think that there was no reason in the current sequence of events for that to happen.
Agreed.
That would be something that would happen, like, later on when it's just like, that's like maritime time. Like, things are on like a chill. There's some stuff going on. So like, okay, yeah, sure. He's able to like you said, maybe put some rooms that allow him to tap into things in the overall energy of the world. And I think giving him time and resources, he would be incredible with rune magic. But we also know that everyone still isn't allowed to do rune magic. Like there's a certain well that you have to have, and it's probably possible that he does not have that well.
Well, if you remember, he's the one who explained to Magne that seal or glyphs made with low amounts of mana end up having higher retention values for some reason, which is like the opposite of a black hole, but whatever. So what I think the direction for him that he can go, and what I would kind of like to see, is for him to develop a permanent seal on his body that just simply allows him to convert spells, like lower tier spells, into raw mana to fuel himself, to help overcome his lack of mana blessing, so that he could then spontaneously create bigger glyphs occasionally that, while more temporary, would allow him to have access to bigger scales of spells. And I think that would be a good way to like have, because like all these black bulls are like scaling up in different ways and all kinds of stuff and so it kind of seems like a good way to keep him relevant without making it where he's going to have to think through every single fight that he sets up with him. And I think that's kind of a good way for him to possibly get away from that. I
think you're right. I think that's refreshing.
Yeah, so, like that's something I hope we continue. If Black Card doesn't end the next 100 chapters or next 50, and we continue to see, hopefully, other characters that we could see is Gage, Zora, Magma, even fucking the guy that's poison magic that has some type of potential. Thank you. Like you're in the Black Bulls and you have some potential, and your whole technique, your whole family follow Magicula. And like you never show some potential in this arc where it involved Magicula, but you didn't do shit. So it's like, my boy.
I think these are gonna be.
So I hope. I'm just be optimistic again.
These are gonna be like the other teams of Naruto. I think as great as Zora will ever become, he's gonna be the Neji of the series, and that's
that hurts. Damn, that hurts. But yeah, overall that we're saying we have still hope. Still potential, but we have very low standards that we don't want to still be disappointed with Black Clover. We might not talk about next week or not, but that's always a maybe. But Black Clover's Black Clover. Next, Kaiju number 8.
All right, Kaiju number 8, talking about
something fresh,
the actual potential,
interesting,
the actual potential of people. Because man, I understand Reno. I understand why he feels so backseated, and I get it, because it's like I felt that I play sports. I don't know if any of y'all have played sports and y'all are also competitive. I have played in handball, in high school, and soccer, where my teammates are improving much faster than me, and I'm like, fuck, why am I getting left behind? So I had to train more to become the first captain in my junior year, just to get there, because it's like I was a competitive person, but my classmates, they were like my rivals, but at the same time I don't want to feel like get left behind because I'm slacking or something. So I understood where he was coming from, because he had the suit our boy Chikawa, but then he's like, damn, why am I getting behind? I got to do better. And I felt that. So that was some great characterization.
So one of the things that I want to like say is that Iharu being freaked out by Reno getting so far ahead of him was one, like something that I was glad to see like us going back to these characters, but two, seeing somebody else besides Kafka, because like Kafka was originally the character that we kind of saw struggling with that self-confidence issue, and he's definitely moved a lot further past that as he's gotten a better grip on his kaiju powers. So in turn, seeing somebody else kind of start to struggle with that and have to sit there and deliberate over their own usefulness and find ways to become and level up. Good transition, good way to keep the story grounded and keep some of the humanity in the story so that it doesn't just become a bunch of basically deific fighters, but then also a good way to pay off. Because if you remember way earlier in the series, and this was a small detail that I hadn't even thought about, they had mentioned that there were different munition types. And I'm pretty sure Reno was using the ice ammunition back then. Right. So us finally getting him accessing like this kaiju number 6 with the ice powers is kind of like, all right, cool, like real payoff for just basic bullet type choosing. Right. Folk working a setup. And then with the thing that Vash mentioned, I've been both the guy that's killing it and the guy that's like, man, I kind of wish I was a bit better at this, because like I did track like my junior year, but I only did like one season of track, so I didn't get to go like full varsity. But and I remember getting like a 400 timing towards the end of the season, like for the 4x4, that was actually like a varsity time, and being like, yeah, okay, I made it to varsity timing at least, even if I didn't get to run on it. But that wasn't the same as like, you know, it's like Iharu, I still wasn't going to the varsity meets ultimately. Whereas when I went airsofting with my friends and stuff, I definitely felt more like the Reno there, because we would be in the woods and playing gun games, and all of a sudden I'm out here dominating, and I'm like, yeah, on top of the world, #1 shooter, like, let's go. So I definitely understand both sides of this situation, and like how you want to progress and keep being better. And like when you see yourself like being the best, you want to like keep it up and maintain that and get higher, like we see with Reno. But I also understand like that Iharu perspective of wanting to still be on that same stage with your friends and keeping up and competing with them.
So I feel like the opposite of you guys. I feel like he was only there to showcase the fact that Reno was that much stronger.
I feel like Iharu is getting tossed aside, and we're not going to have any of that.
I don't know if we do, and I don't care, quite frankly. I think Iharu literally, we couldn't bring back anyone else. I think he was one of the other more memorable character designs and faces of that batch. So it's like, hey, these are two of the people that were from the elite batch of that class. This is somebody who was competing for the top 5 spots in this class along with Reno. And then here they have leveled themselves up significantly. We haven't seen them in a long time. So this is, they're already top tier as far as anything is concerned. You know what I mean? The fact that he was allowed to be on the squad, the same squad, that already speaks to the level of like of growth that he has had. And all of that was just to be like, no matter how much you think that they have grown as a regular civilian, using kaiju gear is next level. Aniki, you saying something? Can't hear you.
Talking to my girlfriend.
No worries.
I didn't know if you was talking.
I was gonna add to what Kenny's saying is that I agree where you're coming from, because maybe Haru was just joined there to be shown that he's, but also Haru has always been in competition with Reno back in the beginning of the series, because he was always getting better up in the skill sets with the suits and everything else, and with the power usage. So it makes sense why they use him as a character for this, to show the difference of how he has gotten much better with Kaiju number 6. And by the way, I'm not sure if I spoke about the past chapters, but seeing the Godzilla version of Kaiju number 6 in chapter 59 and everything, that was dope as hell. And it makes sense why this is the king of Kaijus. And I feel like it fits for Albert Reno, because he also he feels himself that he's also behind our boy Kafka, where when he was with him, he knows that he's Kaiju number 8, and he also has his own armor, his own suit, his own powers, his own power sets. So he himself also feels the same in the same place like Haru, where Haru feels like, damn, Reno's getting better at what he does. I need to catch up. Albert Reno is in the same boat because he feels that he's behind Kafka. And what I love, then this chapter in I think chapter 59, 60, he said that who's gonna save him when he's saving others. I love that line because it reminds me of My Hero Academia, that like who saves the heroes when they are saving the people. I love that line because it fits, because it's like, yo, when our boy Kafka was going out and saving others, who had his back? It was his girl Shinemoya. So Albert Reno also wants to be that person that could get his left or his right or his back or his front in case he's doing other things. So I feel like it fits very well and very parallel.
On
and
your
that's
left,
one of the things that
gives you like goals, like, right? So like, let's say me and Aniki on a team together, right? And Aniki's a little bit better than me, and I'm like, man, I just want to beat Aniki. I want to beat Aniki. But Aniki is like, man, I'm trying to beat LeBron. but
he put that high standard.
Our goals are different, and I might keep pace with you for a while because I'm looking at you and you're in proximity of me. However, ultimately, I've never been in the mindset, at least, maybe currently, in our imaginary world, of being on that level. I just wanted to be as good as Aniki. Like, Aniki is my friend. He's my guy. He's amazing. I want to be on that level so I can support my friend. But meanwhile, Aniki ain't even worried about me. He just like, you see that guy LeBron James? I'm trying to block somebody's shot off the backboard. Like, hey.
And you, Aniki, how do you feel about that comparison to being LeBron?
I will accept such high praise. It's not every day you get compared to LeBron, so I'll take it. But it's a good point. Like, look, because like where you're looking determines how you grow.
Agreed.
And so like Kafka was looking towards the top of the forces and then got handed kaiju power and wants to be like the number one soldier in the forces. In turn, Reno was looking at Kafka, who's looking at the number one soldier, so by proxy is basically chasing the number one soldier. And you could say that by proxy, Haru chasing all this is inevitably chasing the number one soldier. But until Reno hits that level up there with Kafka's childhood friend,
right,
and up there with Kafka, he's not chasing that level of power.
Right.
Agree.
And there's a degree of separation because of that.
Right. Because even if Kafka reaches that level, and Vice Captain Hoshino is going to reach that level because Vice Captain Hoshino already wants to be up there with her and is chasing that, and he's getting access to a kaiju suit that is on a level that is going to be way different than anything we've seen so far. We know he's going to be up there with, like, Mr. Number One, with the general. Like, we're going to have like 4, 5, 6 kaiju hunters on that level. So we already kind of know that Iharu, regardless, is probably capping out with like where like Kafka is now, perhaps, or a little under that because of regeneration and stuff like that. And is that sad for him? Sure, but like, or we get more kaiju weapons as the series progresses, which of course that's kind of like the inevitability and the goal of this, because I would hope that if we take out kaiju number 10, or I can't remember his name right now, which kaiju number he is he 9? No, it's 9. We're after 9. 10 is. Point is, we chase after Flat Top, who stole the general's body, then he's this smart, he's all this, we want that information, we want that power on our side. So you want to make sure you can get all these top tier fighters that are using number suits to hopefully at least take out a couple of the ones that are assigned numbers, especially next year when the assignments come out again, since they renumber every year. You got these suits, so you want them to be able to take those out, so that even though they have shortened lifespans, at least over these next 5 years, hopefully these consistent amounts of high tier suits can either do a lot of like a substantial damage to the kaiju movement, get a lot of them taken out, or at the very least get a bunch more numbers defeated, leading to them having an extremely high quantity of these number suits, and maybe having like the hundreds, and where you got like 100 of these suits now, where you always will be fine unless the kaiju go and like make it a point to just not mess with humanity for like a good 50, 60, 70 years. But like, that's pretty much the only way that it's going to happen. And at that point, they're still going to be doing stuff to experiment and like develop kaiju tech and bigger weapons because of that, because we're not going to know if the kaiju are ever going to be coming back, or they eventually just try to explore the areas we thought the kaiju were at, like the Marianas Trench, like they mentioned. So,
all right. What do you think, Sam?
For kaiju
Sam, tell us your thoughts.
It was actually really. I actually like the interest of more power. I could even see, even though Iharu would see Ichikawa as a rival in competition, it doesn't like. Not everybody needs kaiju armor or kaiju special weapons in order to fight. Neither. If anything, we can definitely see Ichikawa being the next captain and having Iharu as his vice captain, because they technically go well with each other by watching each other's back. Like, it doesn't, even though like the comparison of you saying with comparing Aniki to LeBron, like you're like LeBron can't do everything by himself. He needs a team still. He needs the entire party in his platoon. And
right. I think as you grow, you see that, right? So I think as Reno grows, there's a realization of your potential, and then it's like, well, I can't be LeBron, but I can. Oh, man, I hate to use this. I could be AD. We'll just use current rosters for sake of things. You know, I can't be one of the supporting crew, or like you're saying, one of the other key or role players, because I can't be on that level, but I can still be this good. And like Aniki was saying, you know, if they get that like that next tier like trial like gear, or that's probably gonna happen, then he'll probably be one of those people. Because you gotta remember his mindset too was kind of like, he was like, remember he said he's like, damn, I was kind of happy when he failed initially. You know what I mean? And even then seeing him,
it gives him an idea like, okay, I could catch up now while he's falling
behind. But
bit.
Reno's never thought that way. Reno's never been like, oh, again, it's this mindset that the gap.
He thinks worse of his own teammate, but it's more of like, you know, you're in a high standard and I'm over here. Knowing that you slipped up, I can finally catch up a little bit more closer. If I could get one step over you.
And that's why I said now the realization that gap might be insurmountable in some regards, based off of just currently where he is standing, can either crush him or it could mold him into something else. But I don't see him becoming on the same, at least right now. I don't know. I don't see him being on Kafka's level, on the other vice captain and new captain's levels. We know which one of the original trio is about to be on that level for sure. We know our girl's about to be on that level for sure. They're gonna find a way to make that happen because she's already broken. But again, right, everyone has the ability to increase the potential maximum usage of these gears. And with more and more people rising, I think that's kind of like the point Aniki and myself was making last week, was the more people rise to hit 95 to 100% usage of the suits are not worthy anymore. So I need something where your 100% is only like 70% of this suit's potential, or 60% of this suit's potential. And even tapping back to what we said, Aniki, last week, we were both wrong. He was way more developed with that suit.
Oh yeah,
he came much faster too. Boy did it in a month, and that's high praise.
Well, we thought that he was gonna have like maybe like 40 to 60% of the usage of it. No, he has incorporated the entire thing.
Like, are you guys bothered that it was a time skip? Are you guys bothered that?
No,
because I'm not myself. Me too.
Obvious time skip coming, but Kaiju's notorious for time skips. We said that last week too.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I didn't hear it. That's fine.
Time skips of like, here's a few months or here's a few weeks or whatever. So like, no, they've been doing a good job being consistent with that.
And which I'm fine with, because a lot of series do time skips, but sometimes I feel like they're just pushing the story. But with this, they're pushing the story, but they're pushing the needle to push a narrative of where we need to go. And that's what I'm fine with, where it's good pacing with the good story, with the good time skip, where it doesn't feel like, wait, we want to see him struggle. No, we've seen him struggle currently while he's currently fighting. Like this general, I forgot which general was he, but I like what he said, that he said it that he was hoping that he give him this month is because he said it was supposed to be routine. Fool's errand, you know, the old timer gives a youngster an impossible task as a reality check. If this was a business, that was classified as a workplace to a bullying sir. So he knew that. So I like the commentary of the joke of the workplace commentary, because the business, which is very true, but also in most of the military coaches in sports, a lot of people use this type of method where like, all right, cool. If you cannot improve, you're off the team. They always get that 1 month, 1 week, so they could surpass the limit type of method, and then they get better at what they're supposed to be, good at.
So I'm glad you referenced that, because this whole thing is a very stereotypical shonen trope. The drunken general, his very serious vice captain that's almost a secretary who is trying to train the next generation person with great potential. Like, this, more than any part of the entire Kaiju 8 series, has felt very, very shonen like these past couple chapters.
What I'll say that you're correct, but I do like that with like when you asked about that time skip. Actually, the reason why I like these time skips with Kaiju number 8 is partially because if you're gonna have because the kind of power system that we're working with is them using like exosuits.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's a physical change. They go sure, but it's mostly like them synergizing with an item better. And 2, training arcs for something like an exosuit and in the context of Kaiju number 8 require a lot of redundancy, because it's effectively either a bunch of dummy training and then him like, oh, I accidentally froze myself in place, or
yep.
So it's like there's certain things that, and this is why, and I know it's controversial because a lot of people love the shonen staple thing of like getting those training arcs and like getting that extra training time. But it was kind of like the same thing with My Hero with the Airy rewind training, where it was like they were cutting off like lizard tails, and I'm like, oh, I did not need to see that happen a bunch of times, or any failure with that. It would have just been like redundant. It would have like, okay, cool, like I already know how this is gonna go. I don't need this. I'm not dumb.
In another example, Hunter x Hunter, when they do training sequences, there's a little bit of repetitive, so they kind of just have like quick flash cuts of Killua and Gon doing different things at different points in times. Not to spoil anything for the guy that hasn't watched the series yet. But you know what I mean, where it's like you're getting kind of forced to, and he does it in the manga too with them, where it's like there is this repetitiveness of what you're training, so you can scale up the level of like another example is the doors to get into, again, try not to spoil for Vash since he clearly is never going to watch the series, but whatever.
Or maybe we could give an example like One Piece, like Luffy, where we all know about this example because we have all read the series and watched the series.
No, because Hunter x Hunter has the perfect example for exactly what we're talking about. You should read the series.
Yes.
You should watch the series. It's literally the perfect example of what Aniki is basically describing. I mean, again, there's other series that do it, but like it's really the perfect series because they do a good job of not wasting time with it, but they still put time into it. It's still time put into it that you could have, again, like you said, a little time skip, and you're kind of there with certain things.
So, like the one thing with Hunter x Hunter that I'll say is that they did a good job of not being too redundant, where right. I will say that Greed Island is a little longer in some parts of the training focus than it has to be. But I do think overall it's not nearly as offensive as like what some training arcs can boil down to, which is partially why I like to like take space from them. Or like, for example, Act 2 of One Piece, I'll use that as an example of a training arc that I felt like was mishandled. Because it was like, all right, cool. So we're gonna watch Luffy break rocks or just basically fight people with these sea stone cuffs on every now and then and get into. But it's like we know that nothing bad is gonna happen. You started Act 2 off with that the amnesia plot. So anything you show me around this is basically redundant because I already know it's gonna work out. There's no real tension. I know where this plot line is now going. You could have shown me a whole bunch of other stuff that I would have rather have seen during that act instead of Udon because of that. Like outside of when the death game started, maybe include that, but a lot of that other stuff, whatever. Only the stuff with Kid mattered to me. The rest of that was like, all right, we can get there.
Yeah.
What I've noticed within the rivalry groups within Kaiju number 8, because like at first it was Kafka and his childhood friend. The childhood friend exceeds all the way to captain and has 99% of her suit, while Kafka was like end up doing the cleaning duties and all that stuff, and he basically quit in this group until like certain events and goes on, and then it became Kafka and Hibino's sort of rivalry where you have someone's back and then you protect it, and now we're going into Iharu and Ichikawa. We never had yet a hateful guy within the series. Like, he can actually be the person like he would do whatever it takes to exceed him. Like, would we see Iharu going to like, I don't know, doing supplements or like fighting within like using a different weapons that's way too much for him to handle, but he uses it just in order for him to catch up to Ichikawa and stuff like that. Like, do we actually see like the mangaka for Kaiju number 8 giving him the more like towards the dark route? I guess the Sasuke route towards like he feels like he gets stronger if he goes towards the dark shadier route, since Reno has the suit and everything like that.
Restructure that question, please.
Do we see Iharu going to the dark route of beating Reno? Like, because Reno has the suit, and we know like there's not many kaiju weapons and suits numbers in general.
I think Reno's about to surpass everyone that of that class immediately. I think this is about to be a big leap. It's gonna be a slight slap in the face and push for Kafka, and I think he's actually gonna like propel himself. So like that branch is gonna propel itself because you notice they're in a different branch, right? They're in a different company.
They're training. Yep.
So like I think it's gonna propel them to be like there's gonna be like these number ones of all these other places, because it's like we were talking about like the whole Bleach comparison earlier of like the captains and the vice captains. That's the thing. There's always this like pair or this duo that kind of exists in certain things. So I think it is possible for him to stay around to remain relevant in regards to being Reno's support, even though Reno is chasing Kafka, because Kafka already has support in other ways, and he's already under the wing of another captain. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. I don't think they're necessarily gonna. I would be surprised, kind of speaking to what you're actually asking.
It's because like everybody seems so like still within the positive route where everybody's like, all right, it's never a solo team. It's never a solo mission. It's supposed to be a team mission, throughout in entirety general. But we know like human desires of wanting more power to exceeding another person, and they might go through any means in general, in order for a chance to surpassing and stuff like that. Is what I'm saying. It's more like we haven't really seen that yet in Kaiju number 8.
Yeah, and there's also
I agree
for them to go to the dark side like Sasuke. Like, I can't catch up, I can't do enough, so I gotta go seek power somewhere else. You know, there's just a lot of potential for other things to happen.
Yeah,
but
and look for his own kaiju inside his stomach as well. Who knows?
Oh my gosh, I think the idea of the suits thing is the best direction to go in. I think the idea of understanding that there are two different paths that you could possibly take to become an elite member of this kaiju force, and I think that again they're setting up for kind of more of the weapons to be another route that you go in. Who knows? Next thing you know, this could turn into a mecha series and there'll be a Gundam. We don't know.
I would not be opposed to mechas.
I will never be opposed to mechas.
especially because I don't think you have to have like we can go full giant mecha or like mini mecha where it's like mostly like an exosuit, but it's like still kind of bigger. Like instead of being like a suit that you wear and it maybe adds like a foot, it adds like 3 feet. So it's like pretty big, but still like maybe have the head visible or something like that. We can go with. It doesn't have to go full blown mecha, but that seems like a good route to go with. Especially since the weapons are made out of kaiju, maybe finally building some like kaiju vehicles or something like that.
Bring in the Jaegers.
Well, like imagine if they made like a tank or something. Like maybe not even like a full blown tank, but just something that like a land vehicle that because of for whatever reason like was modified so that it like kind of activated itself and like you could like fire cannons and stuff with it or something like that.
I'm shocked that we haven't had such a mecha like the 86 anime where they have those type of spider, type of drones, type of kaiju.
That's what Aniki was getting at. Something that's a little smaller, like that can be rolled. Basically, skill. I think there's premise for it. There's high powered weapons, like yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah, now we can hear you. Now we could.
Yeah, I saw the signal dip out. There's high powered weapons. We need to expand beyond 100%. So creating this Gundam, I'm just gonna say Gundam because I like Gundams. Creating this Gundam that essentially can handle multiple forms of high powered weaponry, right? And then has that higher potential, like we're talking about. Like maybe you can't use this unless you can tap into 95% of your suit or higher. And then the suit is now the basis of what is controlling the Gundam essentially. And then now you can put even higher powers of weapon on the Gundam because they're not necessarily taxing your personal resource. They're based off of the system of the suit itself. So you just need to be able to control and handle that to a certain level of degree to be able to handle the Gundam itself.
I could see where they can establish the whole, like, the suits and tanks or kaiju giant robots. It's gonna have to be after kaiju number 9, because I feel like kaiju number 9's whole entire mission is to create clones of himself, or like have their own sentient kaijus with their own like brains and suits and stuff like that.
What we have to do is expound upon the kaiju factions being developed by number 9, and then from there have likely one of the subordinates to number 9, because number 9, while an organized leader, does seem to be a bit more selfish than the other ones, maybe have one of those step up as a way to like build up an antagonist that has a better connection with the rest of the underlings of the kaiju to help better organize them and maybe facilitate them having suits too. And then you have, so it's like you have to have a high quality thing, or if you have any of the humanoid ones, they have suits that amp them. That basically creates the situation where, like we talked about, how increasing the number of like numbered suits so that you can have higher tier threats and still have these high caliber like kaiju numbered humans being able to fight and balance out like the stake holding out that only lasts for so long. But once especially because to me it only seems like a matter of time before we start getting intelligent kaiju that are also rather large, because we've been kind of going with like big one that's kind of mindless and just looking for
because when we've seen like kaiju always been like the bigger the better, kind of the more powerful kind of established thing.
That's not 100% true now.
I know it's not, but that's what that's what the kaiju were thinking at the time.
Right,
but then the kaiju learn from the humans by wearing them in a sort of way.
Exactly.
And that's what brought up number 9. You know what? We could do the same thing. We can wear the humans will wear us. We'll wear the humans that's wearing us.
Exactly. Because it's like we know the kaiju that, at least the form of which the kaiju that entered Kafka was really small. And apparently it's like one of the keys. It's like one of the more pinnacle of the kaiju.
Kaiju number 9 has always spoke about it. Hey, I need it back. And we always have been waiting for the question where we're like, what do you mean the key? Why is it so important? Is there like a mother hive kaiju like we know, like in some type of mythos and storylines? Like, is there some type of mother kaijus, or is it like the idea of where Godzilla and them kaijus live in the center of the earth type of story, or is this kaijus come from space and has landed on Earth thousand years ago? So it's very curious to see where the story of kaiju is going to lead up to next, and how what other characters are going to get more kaiju type of numbers in their own suits. So I can't wait to see that too.
Yeah, there's also the potential. So the other thing that I want to say is that there's very much so telling us that there's going to be a level above the Daikaiju. That's been telegraphed at this point. So there's also, again, there's threat levels are going to increase.
We're going to have a kaiju come out of the ocean looking like one of the old ones.
Right.
Or, like that's coming. We have to have, because like the kaiju we've gotten that are big don't have that presence, that threat level that
outside of number 2.
Like we don't have a Godzilla of this like series. Like there's no giant kaiju that were just sitting here like, oh man, remember when the big kaiju, like that kaiju they had to fight? Like, there's no big kaiju that's made us feel that way.
Wasn't it number
That's
6?
in the
similar?
current in the
Six,
current things.
in the current.
Yeah, the current timeline,
current.
in present.
Yeah,
In present, we
yeah.
haven't
I'm
seen
saying
that.
like for us as readers, we don't have that. Is what
Yeah,
I'm
like the
What if they were actually
only
the,
closest to that was Kaiju number 6, and that's because it killed the mom and everything. Like that was the biggest thing.
Well,
Other than that,
what if all these kaiju's been along were like the smaller version of the baby, and like you just explained it where the center of the earth is actually where like the real biggest kaiju is, and number 9 is just sapping out the powers to create.
They could just be
clones and
scouts.
stuff.
They could be little scouts for the bigger kaijus. That's
Yeah.
in somewhere else. And again, like I said, there's a lot of pretense that something greater and bigger lies, or is trying to be created. You know,
Yeah.
maybe the kaiju have an enemy kaiju in of themselves, and that's why he's trying to advance so far. So he could really, he's trying to take out the humans, but he's trying to take out
so
the,
it's like a civil war.
right. There could be something else that's literally going on beneath the surface. But we have to remind ourselves what a kaiju is by definition. So it's gonna get big again for sure.
Agreed.
And then even back to like the idea of like the Gundams, like remember they explored the bodies and structures of this thing thoroughly. It's not just about making weapons. They go and carve and resource this thing. You know, that's the thing that we know about Kafka from the beginning, because he's like, oh, I know where the cores are. I know where everything is about the anatomy of these creatures. So for them to then be able to create something similar in design and structure or some form, would just not be too far-fetched at this point.
I agree. But for me, Kaiju number, I was about to say Blackbird. Kaiju number 8, I am good on my end.
Yep.
Yeah, we could go into Jujutsu Kaisen, chapter 181.
JJK. Yeah,
new
I gotta
arc.
get. Yeah, we are entering a new arc. The Yuta wrap up. I love the way it wrapped. The way he spoke to his boy. Said, "Yo, so this happened. So I don't want to kill you. So can I just get your points?" And I love the respect. I
You
love
soft.
the like, hey, you cannot do that to everyone because we will kill you. And I like, yeah, I know. I've been told. And I just love the way he finally, like the way this 5 Yuta, this fight and the fight of Megumi Yuji, like each of them had their own moments and their own type of monologues with said type of opponent have been so good and in so good depth, and that's why I've been enjoying it very much.
So one of the things that I liked about that dynamic too, though, is that Yuta is very similar to Gojo in this regard, except the difference here is that Gojo is arrogant, and when he fights his opponents, he beats them down and is like, okay, now I can ask you questions and stuff like that, blah blah blah. And it's partially just the idea that his identity is the strongest, whereas Yuta is, like we talked about, accidentally an asshole in the sense that letting these people live is arrogant on his part, but it's out of his kindness in general, like, oh, I don't need to kill people if I can avoid it, that makes him do that makes him take that risk that he technically shouldn't be taking, especially in a world like Jujutsu Kaisen's, where the world of Jujutsu sorcery is like wrought with betrayal and stuff like that. Like, it's only 2 arcs ago really that we had Mei straight up abandon the whole squad because, well, I was gonna lose to Genjaku, so I'm out, bye.
What's crazy is, like, with Yuta and Yuji, they're technically in different, they're really the same in parallels or situations, but Yuta gets the best case scenario out of it, while Yuji gets the worst case scenario from it. But at least it works for Yuta, but it can never work the same for Yuji at all in every single cases and that sort of point.
Which, there's something else that I wanted to say when you mentioned Yuji, is that Yuji and Yuta both as MCs utilize the power of the main character to have them hand their points over, whereas Megumi managed to get his opponent to hand his points over, but it was with spite that his opponent did it. So, like, kind of highlighting how, like, the way that they fought was different for each of them. Like, Yuta and Yuji both had like this sort of acknowledgement between their opponents and them. And while we do get that acknowledgement from Reggie eventually, it's much more like him being kind of like scornful of Megumi. And it kind of shows that of the three of them in this group, Megumi is still the most ruthless one.
He is.
And by the way, nice cover page. I mean, nice color page, because it was nice to see Euro and also what's her face?
Oh, Reggie and
Ishigori. And it was nice to see Uro wearing clothes. Ishigori is his name.
Yes. It was nice to see them wearing clothes, and nice to see them actually all color and see of their own style. Because like, okay, nice that we finally see what the color looks and everything that's going on there. And for what you were saying, Aniki, about Yuta and everything conversation, I love how he acknowledged it and said, oh, there's a rule. And also us, the audience, knowing that he has 200 points, my man wrapped up.
I think what happened is it wasn't just Yuji, but it was Uro who also gave her points to.
Oh yeah.
Yuta as well.
He did acknowledge that she also gave them the points, because he said that his blast
the same conversation.
Because he said his blast was weaker after doing expansion, so he said that he didn't kill her, but he asked for the points. So I'm glad to see them two alive, but the other two people died. So I'm glad the roach is dead.
So to
100%.
I actually want to go into that flashback with Sukuna. Who was he talking to? Was it to Reggie, or was it to Yuta, or the assassin?
So to me, the implication here for that
is an old flashback.
Yeah, it's
an old flashback of Sukuna.
It is.
Like that you're reaching your limit. Well, this could be a depiction of Sukuna as he is now inside of Yuji, because he's at the 15 fingers, and if you notice, like you can see all his hands, and then just the one that's his face is resting on has multiple ones blacked out. So it could be that those are the fingers that aren't active, the ones who haven't been eaten yet. But that aside, I think it's supposed to kind of be a conversation that he had with both Yuro and Ishigori, because it starts off with when he says you're reaching your limit. It's Uro's ear that we see, and then it goes through talking about like the old days, calamity, blah blah blah, and then you shift over to him sitting there with Ishigori. So, and then there was something I meant to look up. Let's see if I can find it real quick.
It does bring up the story, like, yeah, they technically both knew each other from the past, like the story, while Sukuna himself was still around during the golden era of sorcerers and stuff.
But also, it's nice to see Sukuna how he used to look. We haven't gotten how he used to look in, I think, almost we're in 181. We probably haven't gotten his design of how he looks since chapter 5 or 10 or at least 20. To see how he used to look with his arms and his face and everything, is really nice to see that design, and to know that, because we know that he used to live many years ago. So to see that old design is really nice to see that.
Would it also implicate that Reggie and Uro was part of the group that had to take down Sukuna? Because remember, it took a team to take down Sukuna and to like almost
it's possible.
steal him.
But Sukuna also could have, because it's kind of, because I guess Reggie did have an ability that would have countered Sukuna's domain, even if, because Wicker Basket counters the auto hit, and that is a part of Sukuna's domain. He has auto hit, he just doesn't create a limited pocket dimension, which is also where Megumi's domain kind of seems to be heading towards, unless he sticks to just
Dark Shadow,
like with the Chimera Gatto, because he could also just stick to it, amplifying his curse technique way higher, and just make that basically increasing his playground area, thus increasing how many clones he can make and where they could come from, etc.
And I'm glad with this fight of Yuta as well, because again, we spoke about it for the past couple of weeks. It fits so well for his fight and for his movie that came around the same time. But also, it's really nice to see Yuta more character type of development of how he fights and what is his type of limit and what type of limits he don't have with Rika and everything. Because knowing from what happened in chapter 180, with Rika having that type of 5-minute time limit and actually felt like 5 minutes, not like Black Clover type of 5 minutes or not type of, Dragon Ball Z type of 5 minutes that lasts like almost 20 episodes. So it's nice to see with his 5 minutes with Rika and Yuta actually felt like those 5 minutes, that why they had that time limit, and it felt very well that by the time that chapter ended, Rika was knocked out, she gone, but then Yuta and our boy just kept fighting, and the fight was done. So that was a very nice taste to see that when they say 5 minutes, it actually felt like a good 5 minutes, because I think it lasted about 3 chapters, and that was a good length. Aniki, you still on mute.
Gege's math might have been slightly off, because I went to double check it because I was curious, because they mentioned that he got
20 points.
20 points for beating him, and he had 35 points at the start, like when we get the picture of him,
right,
as he's fighting Drove, and then Ishigori had 77 points with Yuro having 70, so that actually adds up to 202 points.
Just 2 points.
So do you think it was Geju, or do you think it was a mistranslation?
It might have just been something like 2 points off is likely just whatever, because it could still technically be right. It would just mean that the point quantity that Kurouchi was worth was of a different value.
No, it makes sense why it's 200, because remember that how that each person has to have 1 point for every 20 days or something, so it makes sense why
they have to change it.
So it makes sense why he has 200 instead of 202.
So they each kept 1 point. Okay.
Yeah, because they kept each one's point to stay inside the culling game, where if they gave him all the points, they would actually be kicked out or die after like a certain amount of points, or I think a certain amount of time left. So it makes sense why it's 200.
Mm-hmm. So for some reason, Useless Maki is in this. Is also in this plane. Miwa, I'm sorry, is in this part in Shibuya, or is he in?
I mean, it kind of implies.
He's in Shueisha. Are you talking about Shueisha?
It implies that she's in the Sendai Cavalry. This does suggest that. It's arguable that that's where she's at right now, which means Miwa's been playing the culling game, and we don't know how long.
And girl looks very serious in that panel. Like, didn't show the eyes or the face.
She was using simple domain. I'm sure we don't know if she has a curse technique or what it should be, but Kusakabe managed to be a grade 1 sorcerer with just using simple domain and swordsmanship. If Miwa has a curse technique in addition to knowing simple domain and being a swordsman, then we do have the potential for some Miwa focus that could actually lead to something interesting. Like,
I totally forgot about that. Chat Alvarez brought up saying that I'm curious to see how she is attitude wise and also body language of how she is after losing our boy Mekamaru, because she and him had a love chemistry. So curious to see how she is now after like a certain months pass or weeks pass since then. So I do agree with that. I'm really curious to see.
That guy could be embodied as a curse. And so what we've seen is that people we know this from our girl Maki, that people can become imbued after the fact with curse potential. So there's nothing to say that their chemistry, again, the story of Yuta, there's nothing to say that the chemistry potentially couldn't have led to some residual powers being passed on in some kind of way. He used to be kind of walled up in his own space, so there's no that space, maybe being in that space could have left some residual stuff that ended up evolving abilities. But I think this is what I've been kind of hinting to for a while, is that a couple of chapters ago we basically found out that you can control the size of your domain. It's not just a set, like you decide what your domain is going to be and then it's always that way. Like, no, you can activate domain in different kind of ways. So even if it's not specifically Miwa, I think something is going to come into something around the kind of concept of maybe multiple domains potentially, or overlapping domains in a different kind of way than it has been presented to us. I think something of that nature could possibly be explored. Maybe are simple domains a different rule? Can you use a simple domain inside of a domain? We've never seen that yet.
You can use simple domain inside of domain. Mechamaru does it to counter what you call it, Mahito.
Yeah.
Simple domain is specifically utilized to counter the auto hit feature. It's one of the 3 negation styles, with the other one being the Zetting Falling Blossom style used by Nobito during the Dagon fight.
Yep.
And that
I was just remembering that one up.
So I forgot.
Is based on cloaking yourself in cursed energy and then having it auto slice and negate the attacks as they land.
There's a potential again, and I talked about this specifically with Megumi last week, or whatever week we were talking about it, about then compacting energy from the larger domain into a simple domain, and then, like I said, essentially layering and or stacking domains into each other. So I think like I said, domains are definitely like a key part of the next stage. Like I feel like if you can't use domain, you're not about to make it to the next level. You're not about to be part of the next set of conversations.
You either okay. So what I will say about that is that I think that if you can't use domain and you don't have simple domain, if you don't have one of those techniques, and if you don't have simple domain plus at least a maximum technique,
right? Yes.
Yeah. You either have to have some domain negation abilities, or it's looking like a wash. Which is why Yuji fought somebody who didn't have a domain, and part of why like Megumi fought, Itadori fought somebody without domain, because right now where he's at, the only domains that we've seen Yuji actually get hit with are Mahitos. And you remember that one also contacted Sukuna, so Sukuna basically broke him out of the domain for him.
Yeah, he said, bitch, don't come here and touch me. I'll fuck you up.
There's also Higurari.
There's still
too.
Right, but that's one that didn't have any hitting conditions.
Yeah. Question, Yuji hasn't active his own domain yet, right?
I was literally about to say, until we can prove categorically that Yuji is not literally a direct descendant of Sukuna in some actual fashion or form, which there is no presence for that, no pretense for that. There's just because what's said in the chat, there's a susness of he always has that similar embodiment. But
I already brought that up in the chat because I was having a conversation with Albus. I already said that. Yeah, yep.
Yeah, so no, I was referencing your conversation in the
thank
chat.
you.
What I was saying was essentially that Yuji has the potential to have his own thing, and I think Gojo kind of alludes to that already. It's like you can't do this yourself, but you can use what's already present in you to do X, Y, and Z. So he's learning techniques basically based off of the principle of what he can produce, but also in connection to what Sukuna kind of adds value to him as being a like Yuta using Rika, for example. So I think there's still potential, much like Yuta, for him to have these other possible skills and abilities. Is he working on them? I don't know. Does he have someone that trains him? Does he need someone? He knows all the basics already. So I think there's definitely going to be something to say about that. Again, that's probably going to be a transition or trump card type of thing going forward.
So Adverse also brought up something that I also questioned in the arc. Crazy to me that Hiraguma basically revealed that Yuji doesn't have his own curse technique yet, and that's very true because Yuji has only been using curse energy the whole time, and boy got the hand, so he literally has been boxing everyone with curse energy the whole time.
That's something that I find kind of fascinating about the Divergent Fist thing, though, because against Mahito, the way Divergent Fist is used,
it hits him, but also his soul.
But no, that's not even what I was gonna say.
Okay,
is that they talked about how Divergent Fist wasn't a real curse technique; it was the byproduct of Yuji's physicality exceeding the speed at which he could manipulate his cursed energy,
right? And
that he eventually lost Divergent Fist. But by the time his fight with Mahito happens during Shibuya incident, he has the ability to control Divergent Fist on a whim, to the extent that there's a part where he throws a hook into Mahito's chest, pulls it back, and then that's when it gets mentioned. And when Mahito's expecting him to teleport, all of a sudden you see the impact go through, with a way for like longer delay than we'd ever seen before.
He can impact the intensity of the divergence.
Are you saying do you think that Yuji has some type of curse technique without knowing that he doesn't know how to activate? It's just like Luffy trying to use Conquer Haki without trying to activate, but using it subconsciously. Like
it kind of seems like Divergent Fist is becoming a curse technique, because to have that impact be so delayed is a little odd. And like, unless that's something everybody can do with their curse energy and nobody's talked about it, but it seems like something that was very unique to Yuji, which in turn feels like it should start counting as a curse technique. But I guess it doesn't, or it could be because of the fact that Yuji has not conceptualized Divergent Fist as a curse technique. It has not registered as one, and that's why it was not confiscated, because awareness of Jujutsu source techniques influences how powerful they are, which is why, you know, people explain them all the time.
I think the person that would clarify that up in current standings would be current Maki, as somebody who has the physicality and the curse energy that could.
Agree.
She doesn't have curse energy at all.
Energy, though. No curse energy she don't have, because
definitely
remember of how Maki,
she's like Toji.
Glasses to check.
She definitely has curse energy.
She has nothing. No, she says herself. She has.
That is true. She might have it now. Actually, saying she might have it now.
May took it away from. No, May took it away from her. Like
May specifically said that the issue they had was that
one had the other.
Even though she was heavily restricted because of the way Jujutsu sorcery works, they're each considered one soul. So she was technically violating her heavenly restriction by Mai being alive, because she was technically still exposed to curse energy within herself. So when Mai left, she created that sword and expended all of her curse energy in existence, basically placing a binding vow on that sword so they would exist and take her life and remove all curse energy from Maki in exchange, so that Maki had a weapon to fight with.
So I understand all of that, and this is again why I'm saying exactly what I said. The ability to use curse energy is not necessarily innately to your ability to produce curse energy. However, there is nobody else who has the physical prowess that is anywhere close to Yuji than Maki. So if anyone was supposed to be in a position to prove whether that's possibly a unique
Who was the one that was telling Yuji about his delayed impact? Was it Gojo or was it Nanami? I forgot who was the one that brought it up.
Gojo, I think Toto recognized it for
what it was. Toto's the one that brought it up. So yes,
I was about to say Toto's the one that really got into it about like, this is what the tech is that you're
wouldn't
doing.
It be nice that if Toto could still, even though he cannot fight and use his curse technique, it would be nice to see Toto still train Yuji in some way to unlock his curse technique.
I think he's done his training portion for Yuji.
So the main thing
so
the only thing that I could see Yuji getting out of Toto specifically is a simple domain, because Toto utilized it against or tried to utilize it against Mahito too. So that's like the one thing that Toto could get out of him, is like being able to, or he can get out of Toto still. But Toto's already helped him get Black Flash and stuff too. So
I did bring up the comment like weeks ago, I think months ago, about why can't Toto use a prosthetic to like make Amaru use a whole fake body and still use his body to some extent. So I'm like, he could use, but it depends if he could still use curse energy through his prosthetic to use his curse technique with the Boogie Woogie. That depends on his body and the prosthetic, right?
I mean, it could be a lot of different things, because we never really got the explanation fully of what Boogie Woogie is. So again,
it's
like
supposed to be
the your mind state. I was gonna say like your mental around what envisioned the technique to begin with might be so severely altered just by the way he currently is. So he might have to relearn something, and it may not necessarily end up being Boogie Woogie again. It might be something close to it or something completely different.
One of the things that I'll say with Boogie Woogie is that, based on the explanation we got in the Kyoto event, is he's able to. Now, this is the part that makes it interesting, because he specifically says, I have to clap my hands, and it allows me to teleport things of specific cursed energy values around. So it could be that it only registers if it's his biological hand. But I would also say that if that were really the case, it would make more sense for it to register by cursed energy signal than by biology, So a prosthetic that is infused with his cursed energy should allow him to clap and do the boogie woogie swap. I would say that the thing that got in the way of it before was that it was the middle of combat and he didn't have the ability to, actually create a hand. But he straight up said his curse technique was dead. So we don't know what is going to go on with that. And I'm kind of hoping that there's something more to it and that there's a way that he's going to be able to develop it more. Because
I see.
You can clap one hand.
I see it mutating is what it is. I see it mutating into something that isn't necessarily boogie woogie. That's where I would see. Like some type of thing that is like that.
Hey, Kenny, also, you can repeat the last 10 seconds. You broke out there.
Oh no, I was saying I can see the boogie woogie either evolving into something. Dang, and it's still unstable. I can see the boogie woogie either evolving into something like new and different, or something being inspired by the concept of boogie woogie being birthed completely, like just something brand new.
Agree. Sam, got any thoughts about this, or you want to move to the Shueisha manga creator?
So we actually seen Toto clap, but we used the last remaining of his energy to clap a part of Mahito's part, and that's how it's like the last part. Like, good thing, like I'm able to at least break out this much. Literally, skin was peeling off from his entire hand from that last curse technique. So I'm guessing like without his other hand to be able to like control it, I guess better balance it. It becomes
like it has to be a hand.
That's what I'm saying. Like you have to remember that curse techniques are very much so they're not stable. And when I say they're not stable, is like they're not defined by simple logic all of the time. So maybe it's not even just like a prosthetic hand, but maybe it has to be a prosthetic hand that is like this specific cordial size with some type of skin application. Like there might be very specific things that need to be satisfied even with trying to use a prosthetic arm just for boogie woogie to kind of conceptualize itself.
We do know like
even the name boogie woogie, like there's the idea of this dance, like maybe there's a certain type of balance that is offset by everything, you know what I mean? So like maybe like rhythm is completely thrown off based off of X, Y, and Z.
Also, because we were talking about Miwa, I had to real quick double check her character profile page.
I saw you looking.
Yeah, same here. I was waiting for Aniki to come with the facts. You're like, so this is what I read.
So the thing that it seems is that it's said that she doesn't have a curse technique, but in her character profile, it doesn't say she doesn't have one. It just says that she's rank 3, and that she seems to be focused on swordsmanship. But one of the important details about Miwa is that she was drafted and scouted specifically by somebody who does the new Shadow style to be a sorcerer, which means that even though she's been kind of getting clowned on, it's worth noting that Maki was only a grade 4 sorcerer because of her family being in the way. It's very likely.
I don't even know why she gets clowned on. In my premise of Miwa was that Miwa was, if not the next strongest on their team after Toto, like she was like top 3 in the class. She just ran into Maki, and she was in her mindset of what she thought about Maki. That added to the crippling effect of their skill gap. So there was a skill gap just naturally, and then there was the mental gap of like, well, shit, y'all said that she wasn't even this strong, and she is definitely strong.
Yeah, like she was having to mentally adjust to that.
Yeah, we never saw Miwa in any dynamic way after that to compare against that situation. But I was always under the premise that she was the number 2 or the number 3 in their class.
I definitely agree, because when it comes with all the negative energy and negative emotion, we already knew Miwa's somehow much stronger, especially when most of our classroom are technically like either dead or injured or just cannot come back because Mikamaru's gone, Mei's gone, Toto's technically has lost his arm, so he has no more curse technique.
Boy, that whole school got closed down. They don't got no class.
I say, like,
got no students.
Like, when are you gonna become a sophomore? Because of what you're used to a freshman technique, just like the students at My Hero.
The witch girl is basically like sidelining because she knows she can't do anything. And I forgot who,
also
the blood manipulation guy. I don't know what happened to him.
Choso and Noritoshi Kamo. Well, they were the
Oh, yeah,
Kyoto
Choso.
people, so they didn't matter as much. They kind of faded out of usefulness because I actually went back to the last little bit of action that Miwa got, and it was specifically she had managed to kind of sneak up on Kenjaku after he had caught the sniper rifle bullet from Mai, and
yes.
then she goes in with the sword.
Didn't Kenjaku compliment her like for using like a physical weapon or using a bullet?
He had complimented Miwa for being able to, or Mai for combining modern tech with Jujutsu sorcery. Because he specifically says, I agree that it's wise to use conventional weapons when attacking a sorcerer.
Yep.
And then what she had done, the compliment that Miwa gets here is that she goes to slice Kenjaku in half, and when he breaks her katana, he also uses his maximum, and that's when he pulls out his biggest move and tries to like blow.
And again, that's just I feel like maybe it's the technique that's minimizing the idea of how strong Miwa is, but Miwa's skill and strength I think is very top class. We just don't have enough view to see anything beyond what we've already seen.
I mean, Miwa can be like Mai's father. Remember how like the duel before Mei died, they had like a whole sword duel. Like, yeah, you were only thinking about the sword itself, but you never thought about the curse technique that goes through the sword. Like, they could still maintain its shape and everything. I think with Miwa, like, even though she cares for her sword and items in general, what if she's able to do that too? Like, actually,
Yeah,
her curse energy. At this point, I can see her curse energy much stronger than before. And
she might be mentally capping herself. Like, she might be capping her potential right now. Based off of like trying to maintain or master the simple domain. It might be on some Rock Lee drop the weights type stuff. She might be like, look, I'm done around with it.
Those scenes.
Because one of my things is that Miwa has like the Bato style curse sword drawn, and one of the things that I think would go massively into her favor is if she learned a barrier technique that had a bit more range. But in addition to that, I think that she kind of needs the cliche swordsman power up of flying slashes. And I think it's possible because like just curse energy output is a thing that people can do. So it kind of, if Miwa, who's specifically using a style where you manipulate your swordsmanship energy or your energy through swordsmanship and run it along the blade, that's like what the Bato sword style is. Like, so once you step in, it auto tracks and brings you in. So she kind of needs that, but it's to like maybe do like an energy wave or something like that, so that she can apply that same principle without needing new shadow style. And instead, just maybe have quick, EI attacks that she can use to launch big weapons, and maybe that'll help bridge the gap between her and some of these other combatants. Because some of these other curse techniques too, like while simple domain canceling out the auto hit, like Megumi has already shown you, if you have, if your domain isn't a conventional one, then it doesn't matter that you're ignoring my auto hit condition because I'm not using one. Like when Megumi started whooping the shit out of Reggie, he was like, oh, all right then. Like, I guess that's one way this can go down.
To add on top of that, I was gonna use that type of segue. Like, how do you feel like this next arc is gonna go with now introducing the new fight, and how Shonen Jump, when you have the possibility that you have a country like Japan with Tokyo, and you could include your own company, aka publication, Shueisha, and throwing jabs about common storytelling, adult themes. How did you guys feel about that? Because to me, it was right on the nose. It reminded me a lot of Ghost Rider, I think. Ghost Rider, right?
Oh yeah, when they had those moments and they were talking about
I don't know. I've been saying this for a while. I do like that. I think that mental health and mental awareness in Japan seems to be growing, especially in the manga community, and the way that they write them into their stories uniquely.
It's especially been an investment they've made over the past 10 years to improve their mental health infrastructure. So
yeah, I think there's always, I think we underestimate the youth to begin with. I think the youth are able to understand a lot more complex things than we tend to give them credit for. Because when I think about some of the things that I was able to conceptualize at 10 and 11 years old, I am sure these kids are on much better levels with it. So I'm just like, I think we constantly try to use kids as a crutch or a cripple when we don't want to push certain agendas, especially like politicized agendas. And at the end of the day, like kids are gonna learn things regardless. You know, if it's something that's above their headspace and it's not entertaining, then you'll know. But if they're learning and it is entertaining, then you're doing what you need to do. You know what I mean? And I think that's all that really matters. If you can continue to entertain and in the same process talk about complex things that kids do face, because I think people try to act like these 10-year-olds aren't dealing with, you know, being sad or being depressed or having expectations on them that are a lot. That's the point of shonen, is like to not just showcase that like you can overcome, but like showcase what you can overcome, you know?
And to add to that, I love how I don't know if this is Geji being full for breaking, but after the guy left and saying, what exactly is a manga creator? Do you know? Like him asking, like, what is it that I need to do to be a good manga creator? Like, and then him saying,
So,
but
so
I respect
since
it
we're
and
going
love.
into that, we're going into the Shibuya, sorry, Tokyo number 2 colony arc.
Uh-huh.
Well, yeah, because we're going into the Hikari stuff now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which, so one, I wonder if this is going to be the main fight for Hikari, because it seems a little small scale for what he's supposed to be, especially. But that doesn't mean that this dude can't turn out to be like a big hitter, because, you know, Megumi did find the angel they're looking for. Yuta has 200 points. So what Hikari's
They're kind of succeeding
after,
in their goals.
yeah. So like and like we already got one of the first rules, and it's important to note that the discussion about points and like all this stuff happened on the same day. Mm-hmm. So like Megumi fought Reggie while Higuruma and Yuji were fighting. Yuta fought Drub and all them during or a little after the same fights there, and this is likely supposed to be happening at around the same time or within the same day at least for Hikari. So whatever is happening here has to be on that same level of importance. Mm-hmm. Just like I think the same thing with the Massacre of the Zenin clan should be happening during this too, actually. Mm-hmm. So,
and one of my favorite lines from one of the editors, I assume, is like the art is seriously lacking. Like it's like here, those fingers don't bend that much. My favorite line of the guy screaming, "Just my creator," because I feel like it's so true. Because people like to criticize art in manga or comics or in webtoons. I'll always say, if you need realistic art, then watch live action movies or stare at some type of photographs. And I find that so true, because I have seen a lot of type of criticism for older art or other artists when they're more extra and everything. I feel like that's the point of the art, is the manga creator or the comic creator own imagination of what they see or want to entail. Not everything needs to be the human 10 fingers, 10 toes, good eyes, and everything that we have. And we are all different ourselves out here in our own human world. So when we see artists, manga creators, I love that line because it felt right on the nose, and I'm not sure if Gejo was a fall for breaking for that, but it felt very fit, and I just love that line overall.
I'm gonna be real with you. Ever since NBA, when Hori straight up had the CEO Shueisha murked, it's like it's very clear that the mangaka don't like Shueisha. They just like getting to live their dream of being mangaka. And the easiest and best way to get that done is through Shueisha and other companies. But then you have people telling you what you can and can't include in your story. And sometimes that makes the story better. Like the 7 Warlords of the Sea and the Supernova of Subodhi are additions that were made by an editor for One Piece.
Yep.
Yeah. But you can also have editors that don't really seem to be doing their job, or like pulling people like Clover, or restricting the story too much. Whereas you have like the overhaul arc in NBA was specifically possible because of the editor that Horikoshi had at the time being more willing to let him do what he wants. Mm-hmm. So we have where it's specifically an editor willing to step back or step in, and both have had positive and negative impacts on series as a whole. So it makes sense that some of these things that he's seeing or hearing would be things that he encountered, and that's why they're incorporated in here. But it would also make sense why that, you know, they would have this commonality of Shueisha execs not being seen in the best light. Hell, even Tozuka had Fuko just pull the strap out and basically made that conversation more about the approval and appeal of other mangaka to mangaka more than getting the appeal of Shueisha, you know?
Yeah, I do respect and appreciate those kind of little nods there. It did kind of throw me for a loop a little bit at first, because I was like, is this gonna tie back? Is this like just a break? But they tied it back in really well. Even the way that the chapter ends and that like intensity. And I think it's also not being the times around this is how same thing for like even like cosplayers. And it's like, oh, you're not doing this one for one, you know, you're not copying this the way it's meant to be represented, you know, the realism of XYZ versus the realism of AB. And it's just like it's entertainment. Like when the One Piece thing had dropped and everyone was going crazy over Gear 5, and it's like, but this series has always been this comedic, goofy, exaggerated art style. Why are you suddenly surprised by this kind of take on things? And it's I think it's also like it's a testament to like good storytelling, where like you get caught up in your willing suspense of disbelief, and you're like, oh wait, oh yeah, this is a series, like this is a cartoon, like this is a comic, like this is not like a real life adaptation of something. And I think sometimes the audience just has to learn to take a step back and remind themselves like, oh yeah, I'm watching a work of fiction. You know what I mean?
Like you're consuming a piece of fiction. It's not something that you have to take. And
yeah, imagine really being upset about Pokemon fighting each other. That's like dog fighting. I was like, bro, like chill, calm down.
Man, okay, when like it's a funny joke, but like when you take it that seriously, it's like, yo.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is, and you, even to give another example, Pokemon has acknowledged those comments, and even in their anime and series, they've addressed it to go as far as to point out, like, no, some Pokemon actually like battling, and that's actually been a theme that's showed up in Pokemon series, like ever since that became like a talking point on a global scale. They've made sure to let you know, like, yeah, there's some Pokemon that's like, I think like even with like the art, the different other art competitions and stuff like Don and them did, like the different shows and stuff. It's like, oh, some Pokemon like to perform, some Pokemon like to just swim, some Pokemon like to eat. And understanding that these Pokemons are also somewhat sentient type beings that have their own levels of thought around them, even though we don't speak that language per se.
Pokemon Arceus will tell you. all those Pokemon that attack random people or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Arceus is a god. Don't disrespect Arceus. Arceus knows.
I mean, the same experience. It's literally that same world experience where, yeah, they're all sentient. They can all kick ass.
Yeah. Oh, you meant the game. I was like, oh yeah, not the Pokemon. Arceus knows what's going on.
No. The game. I'm saying the game. The game.
yeah. I realize you're talking about the game now. But yeah, no. I don't know. It was a good topic to bring up, Vash.
I see where it's going in this sort of way. I don't know if I can see this part of the arc going on for long. I mean, as much as I want to see Hikari, like how he fights more, because when you have a taste of it, because when he fought with Yuji,
this fight wasn't long.
It wasn't long.
Fight in general wasn't that long. Like these fights haven't been long.
But I don't know. Like you guys said, it does feel kind of forced, and it's also kind of a fourth wall sort of work. We already know all the rules have been applied, where Yuji's rule of everybody can transfer points now has gone through, because the time this is literally after Yuta's fights and everything like that. It does establish, like, there are some parts of Japan when the calling game started, people kind of gave up mangaka just left, the world is over, and like I guess there are some people who like, yo, what's there to live for anymore, and that sort of stuff. And like maybe I could be the next mangaka, maybe I could be the next creator and bring up the hopes of some people. But of course, like Aniki said, sometimes like not everybody can be a mangaka, and sometimes like editors will tell you otherwise. Nah, this is not good, and this doesn't work, and that sort of stuff. But if
overall, I think. Oh, sorry, Sam.
Sorry, I'll end it quick. It's saying like, these are like, all right. So if I can't be a mangaka, what else can I be? Like, if I was so, what's the best way of motivation? Someone to like anger me up, of saying like you're a disappointment, you can't do this, you guys, and then it's your own personality stuff. Like, yes, I can do this. I just need that motivation, kind of new, kind of thing of hope.
Yeah, and I think this was a really good transition as well, of just kind of giving us back the point of like, there's some people in this fight that are like, the world is over to them, and there's other people in this fight that it's like a whole new world, and that was always the pretense. So I think it was a good callback to the whole idea of the culling game. And then I think on top of it, it was like, I think of it as like a content creator, and the mangaka was like I need inspiration, and I'm gonna write this manga regardless, so give me inspiration to write my manga. Like, give me something to put into this story to make it the best story that it could ever be, because he was already criticized about the way that he was telling his story. So the best way to change that is to have an experience to talk to that you could, specifically write about, essentially.
And what I like about this is that this is one of the things that I was kind of hinting at too when I said that Hikari, where I kind of feel like this Charles Bernard fight isn't where Hikari's fight, like the big fight for this section of the colony or whatever, because I think that Hikari and this guy are more than likely going to end up in some kind of weird forced team up, or this is going to be one of the, because it feels like Hikari wanted to, like when he says this, is trying to see if Charles has the fever.
Oh yeah, like do you have the fever to fight? Yeah.
Yeah, like that's what he's like, give me a reason to fight, and he's like, make me hate you. And he's like, you're a manga creator. So he's like, what could I say to make a manga creator want to fight me and be mad?
I'll never read your series no matter what you write.
You look pathetic. You look too pathetic for me to even read any of your work. It might be infectious.
But I felt the line, why would you say such a mean thing? I felt like that was a bit exaggerated. I'm like I guess coming from Kari, and I assume when the anime comes out, it's gonna sound more harsh by the tone in the voice acting, but in the manga form, it's like I don't think that was.
Well, remember, otaku is a offense.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's context clues for why that was so offensive.
That is true, because he said it.
Every line.
Because you're whining and fight me, creepy otaku. So he said like 5 things that are offensive. He did say
exactly. Every line was a deeper layer of offense to like not just him as a mangaka, but like his whole existence is like you are a waste. You're just whining. Nothing you do matters. You're just this weird otaku. Like even being called like an otaku in that pretense, like you're like I'm saying like you're an over glorified weirdo, and then still double back and be like, yeah, you're a weirdo. Like it's like the double down of the double down. Like I said, every line is kind of more of an insult than the previous line, and it's just kind of like, yeah, I asked you to say something hurtful, but like, damn, bro.
Yeah,
like, I really was.
If you open that gate, the flood is happening. It's like I'm not holding back.
Yeah, like this kind of remind me of, remember I think it's in Comedy Central or I forgot where, but they do those roasts of your friends, but like they do like a celebrities. Yes. I think yeah, so it kind of felt like that because he didn't act like, yo, can you say something to me where I could hate you and want to kill you? I'm like, all right, cool, you asked for it. He literally said 5 insulted things in like 2 sentences.
And so he doesn't even know him. It's usually you have to burn them without knowing the person themselves, but you're gonna have to like work what you see from like their physical, what they're wearing, but
usually these guys, that's why the celebrities are more fun, because like your life is still out there in the public, so there's things that you can speak on. But I can see where it's like, oh well, did you even know enough to roast this person like that? But this guy already has shown that he has some type of unstable, fragile type of personality, even the way that he has written the comment. So like I think we're misunderstanding where the level of the insult comes from, because this all is set up from the time the studio reviews the book, and the comments and the feedback that's given into that has already fueled and pushed him in a certain direction. Again, like you said, he's up here not for hope. He's up here for like he wants to see the final image of the world before it burns. That's what he's on this thing for. So again, like his mindset, the direction, his mood, his feelings around everything around things, like he's like, I'm never gonna get to put out a work of manga anyways. Like that's my whole point of existing, you know. And here you are telling me, like, even if the world, like, you have hope in the world living, and even in that world that you see, where you see hope of the world living, you're still also like, I would never, ever, ever possibly read the trash that you produce. So it's really subtle, but it's a very dynamic, complex, that whole entire conversation from start to finish. And when I say conversation, not Hikari's conversation, but the whole conversation from the point of time that he comes into the panel is just this dejection. It's like, wait, how can you have so much hope? You know what it's like to look at somebody and be like, damn, you inspire me, you got hope, you know. And then you have those people who are like, man, I don't care about your hope. But to then look at the person who has hope, and then that person with hope is like, even in a world where everything goes back to normal, you're still going to be trash. Come on, bro. That's violent, bro. that is violent.
It's like you're asking for hatred, you're asking for pain, but then once you get the pain, like, oh, bro, I just asked for a bit of mean stuff. I didn't ask you to kill my whole life story and my whole family lineage, but hey, you ask what you get, and you deserve it. So it's very interesting to see where our boy Hikari, and like Aniki said, this is going to be his main fight. Well, I'm hoping to see some other more good monologues that we have gotten from other fights from Yuji, Megumi, and Bayuta. Can't wait to see something more about Hikari and to see his fighting style more in action when he's actually in like a serious mode, instead of when he was fighting Yuji and Megumi to work together. So I am very excited for this fight to see how he is as a fighter, but also how he is with his curse technique and curse energy. So I'm hoping to see that, and I can't wait for that.
I think if things are staggered, however, happening simultaneously, I'm curious to we know that Yuta's is a little bit after Yuji's rule establishment.
Yeah, we know Megumi and Yuji are both fighting a little bit earlier, like literally a little bit after Yuji fought.
Right. So and now the question is, if this fight now that's about to happen is also happening a little bit later, what rule is Yuta going to impose? Because Yuta has his own set of agendas of rules and suggestions that he wants to impose.
He wanted to use a way to teleport people to each other's domain.
Right. And that's exactly like what I was getting at, because then it's like, okay, so what if Yuta or someone else shows up in this other area? You know what I mean?
He also needs to make a way of communication as well, too.
Right. He had his own like 2 or 3 other rules that he wanted to implement. But I said that all that to kind of go back to, I kind of really like Aniki's idea that like this could be the prelude to a team up to a bigger fight. I like that idea a lot.
Because like with what we have for Hikari, like one, it would be weak, like unless Charles Bernard for some reason has one of the craziest curse techniques, because with him wanting to be a mangaka, it's kind of clear that this is a modern sorcerer versus modern sorcerer fight, which I'm pretty sure this is the only one since Yuji's. But what the difference between Yuji's fight being that like that wasn't, yes, Higurama has curse techniques, but that was primarily a hand-to-hand combat fight based around like martial arts for the most part. You look at, because swordsmanship and fighting with the hammer is still martial arts ultimately. Even if you're teleporting the hammer between each hand, whatever, that's still a primarily hand-to-hand combat-oriented fight that came down to ideological understanding. Megumi's fight was about being a sorcerer to a certain degree, but Megumi was using a classic ancient family technique with the Ten Shadows style. And So like that fight was about like the way sorcerers never change, and like how like that deceptive aspect, sorcerers are always about that deception and like moving through the shadows. And then you have the fight we just had with Yuta, which was again designed to highlight the curse techniques and the skill level of older sorcerers, specifically like how special grade or being a threat to a special grade wasn't that crazy throughout the ages. Like there's plenty of special grade sorcerers around here, and you got like the same thing with Kuroishi. Just the idea of like if a cursed spirit wants to, we can set up that like the idea of like cursed energy and like how it's been from the past and the way it carries forward. And this one I think is going to be entirely censored now, not on like old techniques and bringing those back and replicating them and how the past, like the new replicates the past, but instead having this stuff that is completely centered on the new era of curse techniques that we've already had some interesting technological adaptations to, with, you know, like Nobito's technique literally just being he can make real life in anime, you know.
In that sense, I think we're good with JJK. I think we touch it down very thorough, very slap in the face.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else we can, because yeah, like we talked about that. We covered Ishigori. Real quick, does anybody else feel like this is what Sukuna currently looks like inside of Yuji's domain? This is just my stance based on the way certain fingers are shaded, and the fact that the half of his face is still like rotted, like it's not complete.
Yeah.
So it kind of feels like to me that we're supposed to be kind of zeroing in on the fact that like
I think that is the
he's
past.
forming.
He's getting
Wait, that's the current Sukuna at this
moment?
moment?
Like this is what Sukuna would actually look like inside of Yuji's body when you factor in that he has 15 fingers. Because like that's why his face looks almost complete to the 4 eyes.
Oh, okay. So you think that we are seeing the past version, but we're also seeing the type of foreshadow version of what he currently is right now once we see him again with the 15 fingers.
Like the distortion on the right side of his face is there because he's incomplete.
Yeah. So incomplete. We're
seeing like what Sukuna looks like now inside of the realm of Yuji because of this.
Yeah, once he comes out, I can't wait to see how he's gonna look, what type of dark killing spree is he gonna do, or type of monologue he's gonna do. Because
so would that monologue be towards Yuta then? That conversation?
Partially, yeah. Like they're partially comparing Sukuna to Yuta, which functions as also comparing Yuta, who he is now, to Kenjaku, who is also a Sukuna era sorcerer.
Yep.
So does that mean Sukuna knows and sees Yuta like he's about to reach his limit, like he can't?
Well, the monologue isn't from Sukuna. He is being compared to Sukuna, and it's basically saying he can't be Sukuna. Similar to how Kenjaku said that Yuta could not be the next Satoru Gojo.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That was my take as well.
Basically, the story is saying like Yuta. It's kind of like the story is just going. Yuta isn't the MC. Don't get confused.
I think it was also a nice way to show us, kind of like you were saying, that I think intentional distortion so that the audience knew that it was Sukuna, but also kind of again like you saying this impartialness, a kind of a nod to a representation of the incompleteness. And also still showing us like a half and half, like a present versus past kind of thing of like, this is this side, this is that side. Speaking to where Yuta is right now, speaking to the decisions that's being made, speaking to Yuta's sense of weakness, essentially. And I think ultimately that's probably a bit of foreshadowing of things are cycling back around into a similar type of dynamic in the world.
Also, one of the things that I want to point out is that the sorcerer of the group that's being described right now is actually Megumi when you like look at that overwhelming aggression, because the only thing that really holds him back is caring about Sumiki. And even so, like if he ever loses her, then anybody who gets in his way is just getting folded.
Yeah, but I think that won't happen because I think they're trying to establish his dynamic with Yuji as also being an additional anchor to him. But I do see sister dying soon, not necessarily soon, like immediate future, but I feel like there's gonna be some ramifications for them because they're succeeding a lot, and you know what that means. Some type of retribution needs to be had for the fact that they are doing such a good job of succeeding. There has to be the villains have to make their own progress, you know what I mean, or the antagonists rather have to make their own progress in some type of way. Or all of this is feeding into progress. Maybe this is the expected outcomes, and they're just trying to isolate and prove certain points. But we'll see.
Yeah.
All right, I think I'm good for JJK. How about you guys?
Yep,
Same here.
I'm good.
All
Yeah,
right,
I'm good.
cool. We could go straight into our favorite chapter of the week.
The first chapter of issue 20. I'm gonna go first. I'm gonna say JJK. I really like what it's setting up. We wrap up the characterization of Yuta and his fight. We also got some lead up for the next arc or the next colony fight. So I like, and we also find out more information about how many points he got. So it was a great wrap up to the whole Yuta arc, Yuta's fight. And now we go to Hikari. So this is my favorite chapter of the week of today.
I could go next. JJK was good this week, but I think Spy Family, after its 2-week break, came back, was really good to kind of finishing up. Well, not finishing up, but like the second part of 3 parts of Lloyd's story. Because although people don't like the cliffhanger anticipations and waiting so long for it, there was a lot of violence within this chapter of Spy Family, and I kind of like where it's going with its arc, because it's the whole tragic backstory of how I became a spy because of this happened, and war, the devastation of war, and that's what the mangaka was trying to get at with Spy Family. So that's for me.
I'll go last.
All right. My favorite might actually be Yozakura family this week.
Oh, nice.
Like it's either I'm leaning towards Yozakura family or maybe Undead Unluck. Which Yozakura is just paying off some like character dynamics after 100 chapters, just kind of really getting some stuff going. Doing a good job of, like I've always said on the timeline, like balancing that brevity with action and all that other stuff. So that's where I'm at with this week. Yozakura, one of those secret pleasures of mine. I don't talk about it a lot, but hey,
I'm the only one to discuss on the timeline other than Abe, so I'm glad to hear some praise for Jujutsu family. So I'm happy about that.
Earthchild was in consideration for my favorite of this week too. So
haven't read that yet, need to, but that's dope though.
Good, it's good. I'm gonna say it's actually between Undead Unluck and Kaiju number 8 for me. Okay. I came into this week with big anticipation for Kaiju number 8, so I think that might be partially why I have it ranked so high. I felt very satisfied by what I got from Kaiju number 8, comparatively to like everything else coming into this week.
I mean, and then One Punch Man 2. I forgot about One Punch Man.
Yeah, but also Undead Unluck was also just kind of like outside of that same kind of expectation. I got way more than I wanted or expected from it. And then, yeah, I would say, I was literally going to say, on the same tone of Kaiju number 8, I came into One Punch Man this week with high expectations, and they definitely met. One Punch Man wouldn't be in the top 2 talk, but they definitely be, somewhere after on the list. But top 2 for sure for me, I would say boils down to Undead Unluck and Kaiju number 8. And it's just, it's a coin toss for me. It's a solid, like it's one or the other. I don't know which one it is, but those are definitely the standouts for me.
I understand Kaiju is my number 2 as well, so I totally understand why it's right there toe and toe with you. So for me, I get it, because Kaiju slap, it brings a lot of potential where it could go. So I agree.
And you also, I
think they're trying to bring in the art aspect of like the series a little more with these powers. Like I feel the art is getting a lot more comfortable with playing around with the art.
That's part of what I like about Yozakura, by the way. The art is crazy.
Yo, I tell everyone, like, just stick to chapter 40. The art is still good overall, the first 40 chapters. But once chapter 40 hits, it gets that new editor from Haikyuu, and it slaps moving forward nonstop. That's what I tell people all the time.
You said Haikyuu, and that's all that needs to be said, because
they have. I'm not sure if they still have the same editor, but I know from chapter 40, from so on, they get a new type of editor, and the editor is from IQ, and you could tell the big difference in story and art pages. Like from chapters 1 to 40, I think only has 6 or less double spreads from chapter 1 to 40, and that's very little comparing 40 chapters. But from chapter 40 and on, it at least has a double spread every chapter, and you could tell the big improvement. So I highly suggest for anybody that don't read it, I always recommend it to anyone. You will not be let down.
Mm-hmm. My last note in regards to that, just because you mentioned that Aniki, is that I just kind of want to remind of like what you said last week, that I think if Ayashimon dies, is because there's other really successful things that already encompass all the main points of what Ayashimon is.
Yeah.
True.
Like that'll just be what it is. That's why this setup for an ending of a volume 3 potentially still works.
And Aniki, how do you feel of My Hero not being on break? Because it seems like out of us is here saying that, hey, My Hero not being on break is why there's room for other series to be a top 1.
I mean, Albus is right. That does make it a lot easier to have something other than MHA be the top 1. But I'm glad, because it means that almost without question we're getting an 18-19 page chapter when it comes back. I'm always looking forward to the 18-19 page chapters. Plus, with it being so, with him having that extra time and us going on a Golden Week break right after that, we're probably getting some of those really nice Horikoshi double spreads, stuff like that. So coming back strong, more than likely.
One Piece? We get One Piece, and then we get another break, and we get one. Oh man, next week is gonna be fun.
I'm sure One Piece and MHA are gonna come back next week with some heavy hitting to make sure we are rewarded for our patience before the Golden Week, and then effectively
and it's crazy because they both kind of ended. They kind of pause on this break on a very similar tone of like a transitional / climactic point of like a fight sequence. So it's whew. And then you get Golden Week, you get all the announcements, and then you come back again. Oh, it's about to be lit.
It's gonna be a fun week.
Even the cover story for where we left off is kind of spicy.
Yes, that too. That is true.
The cover stories have been spicy for a little minute.
It's quick, so I think it sucks that the anime don't ever touch the cover stories, because particularly do fillers. Just wait on the anime and do fillers on those cover stories. Particularly do content.
They are relevant, and it's because all of the cover stories aren't canon. Sometimes they're fan art, sometimes they're request submissions, but some of them do actually make it into the anime stories. So you have to be paying attention to what's
it's just very scattered, but
like as far as we're concerned, any of the canon ones, I want them in the story. And like Enel on the Moon, it would have seemed like two random ass episodes, but I want that incorporated into the manga or into the anime at some point, because it will help tremendously. Like part of the pacing issues we have with the One Piece anime stem from them not utilizing cover stories, not utilizing side novels, not utilizing.
That's literally why I said it in the chat just now. That's literally why I just said in the chat. I was brought up like it's almost like that will help Toei right now with what their current production is, but that's a whole different conversation. But it's perfect for it. But Sam, plugs, right?
Yes, your plugs, please. Aniki.
Hey, you already know it's Aniki Smash FSP on any profile you need to find me, baby. Keeping it simple branding, simple gibberish. That's the brand logo, like nipple dippers. No, but in all seriousness, Aniki Smash FSP, Twitter, YouTube, Church of MHA. If you want to keep it even simpler, look for that. Type that into your browser and have fun. Enjoy all the episodes ranging from crossing out 3 seasons. So boom. That's all I really want to say for that. So,
Kenny,
I could.
Hey, what's up? You can follow me everywhere at Kendall KENDALLX anime on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and the lovely Quirk Chat app. And you can also follow Conqueror Movement, and as y'all know, the links are down below.
Vash.
You can follow me at LegendDVash everywhere where you see cheese on pancakes, the booty juice guzzler, everywhere else, you'll see me and find me on social media and everything. Tomorrow I'm waiting for the good news. The congratulations. If I get this job, you'll be seeing more content creation on the Anime Lately side. But overall, things will be kicking up for Anime Lately overall. If you're checking Shonen Ronin out and stay tuned for these 3 hours and 34 minutes and some change, go check out the Spy Family reaction that me and Sam did, our first reaction of the year that we haven't done since October of last year. Go check that. It was a blast to do. It was a blast to edit. We had a blast. So please check that content out if you haven't. Share it to your friends. Share it to your grandmother. Share it to your tias and your abuelo, your ex-girlfriend too. Hit her up. Say like, yo, babe, I just got this awesome content. Go watch it. I highly recommend. It's that simple.
Guys, you can always follow me at Sam the Mega Man. Remember to like the video if you actually enjoyed the entire Shonen Ronin episode. A little long, but we got a lot done with the content. Remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel because we need more subscribers. We love more subscribers. Help out the algorithm, have more people to know, have our name out in that sort of community, and have these gentlemen, follow these gentlemen all on our social medias and all our platforms, all out there in the descriptions down below. We appreciate you guys watching for this long. Peace.